Though Kevin has evidenced 23 personalities to his trusted psychiatrist, Dr. Fletcher, there remains one still submerged who is set to materialize and dominate all of the others. Compelled to abduct 3 teenage girls led by the willful, observant Casey, Kevin reaches a war for survival among all of those contained within him, as well as everyone around him, as the walls between his compartments shatter. Welcome to another installment of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode, we're going to be doing 2016 Split, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Double Feature. Zoheb, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. It's an Arvo here. Sunday Arvo. I can see Monday coming, which is pretty sad, but what can you do?
Yeah, right. Same
That's
here,
fucking
dude.
Life.
Yeah, it's like it's Saturday night here for me, and I know because I get up outrageously early for work, so I've got to go to bed at like no later than like 8 if I want to get like 6 hours of sleep. So I'm like, oh god,
that's fucking rough.
Yeah, it's like I get Sunday off, but I gotta go to. I have like a bedtime of like a 12-year-old kid. But yeah, so we're gonna be fucking covering Split. This was one of my picks. I've actually been trying to get better about picking more recent movies, which is something that, and when I kind of stopped and I thought about it, which movies that I wanted to cover that were more recent, like there are a lot of them that I actually do want to cover that are super recent, but there's kind of this like uber nostalgia for all of the stuff that I grew up with, like fucking, Flatliners and stuff like that, but it's fun to dip into those, but I'm trying to get better about watching like more recent movies. And this is probably, I think this is the most recent movie that I've bought. I'm not 100% sure. I nabbed it up just on a whim and picked it up and started watching it just because, I was like, whatever, I heard this is kind of cool and blah, blah, blah. But I tell you what, let's start with you. What are your first kind of impressions with this movie? How'd you feel about it? And like, what did you know about it going into it with this whole Shamalamadingdong universe?
Yeah, I'm going to keep calling him Shamalamadingdong because it's just so much better to say. Obviously, okay, so the trailers for this were really, really intriguing. Like the entire conceit, the premise of the story is fascinating. Like just this guy that's got all these like personalities in him, and the trailer just completely hit it home. Like he's James McAvoy. I'm gonna just spill my thoughts on him right here. Fucking outstanding in this movie.
Yeah.
This actually might be his best role, and this is an actor who's only recently started becoming more and more up and coming, I guess. Like he's been in movies for a while, but it's only sort of lately that he's just been kind of killing it. I think it kind of started with 2011's X-Men First Class.
Yeah, that's the first thing I saw him in.
Yeah, well, he was in Wanted. I saw him in Wanted before that, but I didn't really like him in Wanted. But yeah, I mean, he's been killing it. Like he was in, obviously he played Professor X in the X-Men, in the latest X-Men stuff. He was in Atomic Blonde, really, really good at that. He's going to be in It Chapter 2, which is pretty cool. I know you're keen for that, man.
Fuck yeah,
cool.
dude. I was super excited when I heard he was on there, and fucking Bill Hader, Jessica Chastain. I was like, dude,
Lord.
Okay, that's pretty good. I wish they would have got Amy Adams, but that's a whole other story. It's okay.
I can't wait for Bill Hader. I've actually fucking met Bill Hader. He's a tall bloke.
Really?
Yeah. I shook hands with him. It's crazy. That's a whole story. But
I had no idea.
No, I just went to when I was working at the cinema chain for the head office. I went to the premiere of Trainwreck, and he was there with Amy Schumer. Obviously, I was more excited to meet Bill Hader.
Yeah, right.
I can't deal with Amy Schumer. But that's another story. I hate her.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. But when the trailers came out for this, I think I first saw it on Facebook. And I was really intrigued, man. The way they just presented the story, like this kind of like kidnapping story, but the captor is not a normal person. Like he's mentally kind of split his mind into 23 different personalities. And I was like, dude, that's super interesting. Like, you know what I mean? And then I saw it was directed by M. Night Shamalamadingdong. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of on board only because his movie before this, The Visit, I really dug. Have you seen The Visit?
That one. No. Mm-mm.
Dude, it's actually surprisingly really good. Really good. So M. Night Shamalamadingdong's, I'm just going to call him M. Night.
We're never gonna get over that hill if we don't.
There's too many syllables in Shamalamadingdong, but
it's just it flows so well. Like when you're like M. Night Shamalamadingdong, like you can't help it, dude. You really can't.
It does. M. Night's career is kind of really fascinating. So it started with The Sixth Sense. And when that came out, dude, have you seen that movie recently? That movie is... actually, I think you said once that you've never seen it, right?
I've never seen it.
Son of a bitch.
I know, dude. I get that all the time.
It's a fantastic movie. Even if you do know how it unfolds and things like that, even just going back a second time and watching it, it's really well told and well put together. At that point, I believe there were outlets that were actually outright calling him the next Steven Spielberg.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So after that, he did Signs, which I maintain is a pretty decent movie. It's not amazing, but it still tells a pretty personal story with this kind of like backdrop about aliens and things like that. But then after that, his career kind of takes a left turn. A lot of people will say that Unbreakable is amazing. I can't get on that train with you. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's not. Everyone seems to love it. What I'm taking that you love it. You really like it.
Yeah, actually, it was funny. I've never. You would think. I mean, you know the kind of movies that I like. And I was around 10 when that came out, and I think that would have been. And that's not anything that I think is. I don't think that's rated R. I mean, Split isn't rated R, which actually kind of surprised me.
It's pretty fucking dark. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely pushes that PG-13 rating, which I thought was cool. But there's not a whole lot of blood. There's not a shit ton of like violence in it. But yeah, I remember I was actually sick one day, and I was like we'd just gotten Comcast, and I was like, God, why do I have cable? Who has cable anymore? But I started flipping through, and they had free movies, and Unbreakable was on there, and I was like, you know what? I've never watched that. I'm gonna sit down and watch that because like I don't mind M. Night Shyamalan, and I fucking loved it. Like I was like, dude, that's actually really cool. I don't like the whole play on water with that he has. I mean, it's kind of redundant. It happens in Signs and it happens in Unbreakable. Yeah, it's like, dude, like I don't know, just kind of that's the only thing that kind of beat me over the head with it. But yeah, I definitely liked it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was coming at it from the other way. A lot of people kind of hyped it up, and I was like, okay, I kind of got to say this. And then afterwards, I was just like, oh yeah, it's okay. The only redeeming thing for me, I outright really don't like Bruce Willis in the 2000s. I just can't deal with him. I didn't really like him in it, and because the movie's really centered around his character, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. But there are some moments of greatness, mostly coming from Samuel L. Jackson's character. Sorry, I do apologize. Unbreakable comes before Signs, but after that he made The Village, which I think is okay. A lot of people seem to hate it. Have you checked that one out?
I think I saw it maybe like once. I think it's okay. It's kind of forgettable,
it definitely is forgettable, but I'd never forget the twist.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting twist, but it reminds me of, I guess it reminds me just of a few books that I've read when I was a kid. The Giver kind of reminding me of The Giver a little bit, and a few other books that were like that. But like all in all, I think that I think M. Night Shyamalan gets a lot of bad rap. I mean, did you ever see Devil when Devil came out?
I was just about to get to that.
Okay.
So after The Village, that's when his career took a real nosedive. So after that, he did Lady in the Water, and then I think what might be the worst movie in his resume, The Happening. He made The Last Airbender, which is a terrible, but it's actually to me, it's more super disappointing just because I really like the cartoon. I was like really stoked for that movie back in the day. I was like, God damn, yeah, they're making The Last Airbender. Wow, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, it was dog shit. After Earth, with Will Smith and his son, that wasn't great either. Yeah, had some really good concepts, but no. But then he did I believe he did Devil. Well, he didn't direct the Devil. He produced it. Yeah. But that was okay. Not nothing to write home about. But The Visit was definitely his sort of like comeback, and that was only in 2015. And the Visit was just outstanding. I thought. I was really surprised by how well it was directed, and the tension and things like that. One thing I've noticed, M. Night is more he works really well with child actors. Like you haven't seen The Sixth Sense, but the child actor in that is great. The kid actors in Signs, in The Visit, in this movie as well. I wouldn't say these girls are kids, but they're younger actresses. But yeah, man, it was. I was kind of stoked for this movie, but when I saw it, I was kind of disappointed. It wasn't what I was expecting. It didn't go the way I was expecting, which is not a knock on the movie. It's more kind of me tempering my expectations, kind of thing. But at the same time, I was just like, why did we have to go this route? And look, I was not expecting the connection to Unbreakable, and at that point, Glass hadn't been announced, so I didn't really have a vested interest in that at all. But it was a cool kind of like teaser, but I'm not too sure what direction we're heading in with Glass either. So this movie was okay. But this time around on a second watch, definitely loved it a bit more. And that's the thing with M. Night's movies. They do tend to get better on a second watch, especially like his earlier ones like Signs and The Sixth Sense and things like that. So there are kind of like little nuggets of dialogue that you missed the first time around and things like that you appreciate more on the second watch, knowing that the story is going to go in the direction that it does. But other than that, man, I think this kind of falls in the middle of M. Night's kind of like resume. It's not dog shit like The Happening or The Last Airbender, but it's not amazing like The Sixth Sense either. It's fine, but definitely the best James McAvoy performance I've seen.
Word, yeah,
that's my little rant.
I definitely liked it. I had somebody. Here's a good tip for never getting me to watch a movie. Tell me to watch that movie, and I will never watch it. I don't know what it is.
I am the same.
I can't help it. Like the only time that has ever worked was Stranger Things. Somebody was like, "Dude, you've got to watch the show called Stranger Things." Like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. I don't really watch a whole lot of TV.
Yeah, and you know what you say. You know what your response is. Yeah, I'll put it on the back burner.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Dude, this guy at work literally had to grab me by the shoulders and was like, "Collin, you need to watch Stranger Things." And I was like, all right, man. So I went home and I binged like the first 5 episodes in one night. But anyways, I liked this movie, even after being told to watch it by someone that I didn't even really like. I was like, oh, fuck you.
Wait, this was your first time watching it, was it?
No.
Okay.
It is actually only like I think my second time watching it.
Same here. Yeah.
I like this movie. The first half hour of this movie sucks. I cannot. I feel like I'm just dragging my way through the first half hour of this movie, and it's great to get. I mean, obviously, we have a lot to set up, even though this is a movie that takes place primarily in like less than 5 locations. I mean, probably less than 3 locations, but it drags so much at the beginning of it, to the point that like I went out and I bought this on a whim. I was just like, you know what, I heard this is good, whatever, I'm gonna roll the dice, buy this movie, see what happens. And Lindsay and I were watching it, and about 20-30 minutes in, I was like, I'm about to turn this off. I was like, I can't stand it. I don't know what it was about the beginning of it. And
can I interrupt quickly?
Do what?
Can I interrupt quickly?
Yeah.
I love the first half of this movie. Dude, I really like the first half of this movie, and the second half for me is where it goes off the rails.
Yeah,
so this is gonna be a really interesting conversation. I can't wait for this.
Dude, like I like I said, I understand we have a lot to set up. We have 24 different people, only 8 of which we actually see.
Oh, you counted. Nice. Yeah. I wasn't counting how many of them materialized.
Yeah, and some of them it's kind of hard because you only see them in, bits and pieces towards the end. But I don't mind the actresses at the beginning of it. They get better as it goes on, but at the beginning I was just like, oh my God, like this is just this is just dreadful. I hated it. The first couple times I saw it, or the first 20 or 30 minutes that I saw it. But as it went on, I kind of got into it a little bit more because Shamalamadingdong has this kind of appeal that he's kind of got this like J.J. Abrams syndrome of like setting things up and mystery and what the twist, like kind of interesting things, but sometimes his twist and his setups don't pay off. I mean, obviously, like you were talking about, his career kind of took a nosedive. With Sixth Sense, it obviously pays off. And I think with Unbreakable, it pays off, and certain of his other movies. But he kind of has this problem of setting things up, and the payoff is very anticlimactic. And where I think he's trying to go for something super original, sometimes it just falls flat. I mean, really, if you would think about Unbreakable and it ends up being water is the thing that ends up hurting Bruce Willis's character, you're kind of like, what? Like, really? Water? But it's another thing when you reuse that later on, 2 years later, when you make Signs and you make that the weakness of your antagonist. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Why are these super intelligent aliens coming to a planet that's mostly water? Doesn't jive.
Yeah, it doesn't jive at all. But I liked this movie more as it went on. Finally, thank God I didn't take it out because I do like it. I like the study of people with DID. There's a great show that Toni Collette did called The United States of Terror. I've never seen anybody that's honestly watched it. I had a friend introduce it to me probably about 4 or 5 years ago. They only did a couple of seasons of it, but it's fucking brilliant and it's really well done. And Toni Collette knocks it out of the park doing multiple personalities. And that's what this kind of reminded me of. But I like the M. Night Shyamalan kind of universe of, yes, there are heroes and yes, there are people that are capable of this. And with David Dunn and Unbreakable, we don't really get an explanation for his powers, and you could even argue that maybe we don't need one. But that's kind of the flip side of this movie. We're literally, I mean, it's almost too. Yeah, it's almost too much. There's just so much going on. I think the thing that hurts this movie the most is exposition. It is a lot of exposition. I mean, I by the end of it, I felt drunk off of exposition. I was like, okay, dude.
Especially coming from the Dr. Fletcher character. Yes. There were points when she was cringeworthy. I was just like, ooh. Just to add to that, I'm sorry. How much do you know about DID?
Not a shit ton. I've just known what I've kind of picked up from some true crime cases and a little bit of entertainment here or there.
See, all I know, I don't know jack shit about it. All I know is what this movie presents, and obviously this movie is a work of fiction. But one of the big things that I couldn't buy about this movie, DID is a mental affliction, I believe, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of like a schizophrenia where you can kind of like, you have a different personality in your head, kind of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. There's just different. Yeah. Just basically different avenues.
So my problem was, I don't like how the mental aspect can affect your physical body.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like, it was a bit much. It was a bit too much of a leap. I think at that point, M. Night was trying to sell us on the kind of like the superhero aspect of it, and trying to connect it to the Unbreakable sort of side. Like, I don't like the Beast. I think that's why the last half kind of like goes off the rails for me a little bit. I don't like the way the Beast is portrayed. Mainly only because I don't like the mental the fact that this is a mental sort of affectation, but it's physically changing his body. Like, if you stab the Beast, then then his skin doesn't pierce. Like, it doesn't make sense,
Yeah, like I can buy into it just with the movie magic. Like, I can make that small jump just with the whole like a good I'm trying to think. Okay, Stephen King's It. Basically it's kind of like, yeah, of course. And it's kind of, sorry, I'm going to kind of spoilers ahead for a movie that's already out on fucking DVD. But basically, there's a part where the bolt gun's not loaded, and they don't know that, and they pull the trigger and it ends up hurting Pennywise. Anyways, it's their belief in it that ends up, kind of hurting the antagonist of the story. So I can kind of see the lines, but I can't. But they're just not. They're a little bit kind of sketched out.
See, there's a difference. There's a difference between willing, like having the force of will to force your body to do things. Like, later when, sorry, I don't want to sort of jump too far ahead, but when he's the Beast and like he's jumping over fences and running along railway tracks, like I get that. I feel like you could do that if you had this mental sort of state where you believe that your body was capable of doing those things. But I mean, not, and I keep coming back to this example, but your skin not being able to be pierced by a blade, that's not something that your mind can control. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I think that's where you have to make that leap, because it's kind of, and I don't know if this is true. This is just, maybe we should have done a little bit more research on this, but
we're kind of terrible podcasters, but whatever.
But, in the movie they talk about, some of them need insulin. Some of them, there's a woman in Germany who's blind, but two of her personalities can see.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't buy any of that.
Right, yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't know if those are true case facts. I do know that this is partially based on a true story. This is based on the true story of a guy named Billy Milligan. He actually died in 2014, but he was charged with 3 rapes and was the first person diagnosed with multiple personality disorder to use an insanity offense by reason of that disorder, and it was also the first to be acquitted. He had 24 personalities, considering of 10 desirables and 13 undesirables. And a few. This is where it gets kind of. Some of those were actually fused together, and they were called the Teacher. But I mean, he had some Sean, Martin, Timothy, Jason, Bobby, Steve, Lee, Arthur. I mean, there's basically like what's going on with Split. Even to the point of some of them kind of like I said, fusing together and becoming like the Horde, which is like Patricia and Dennis and Hedwig. But all in all, like I can buy into it. I know there was I did read a couple of articles of people being like, oh, that's use like an actual mental, like basically people being pissed off because use an actual mental disorder to basically try to make a superhero out of it. Which like I can understand that. I don't think it belittles anything.
No. But I think you're basing your fiction on reality, which is fine. I mean.
Yeah, right. It's like seeing people who are in accidents and all of a sudden they have superpowers. It's like we're not going to stop or like seeing Batman being turned into Batman by the murder of his parents. Like, well, we're not going to stop showing that in comic books. That's how our origin stories get started. But I think that, like I said, this movie suffers from way too much exposition. Character choices are like, what the fuck? Sometimes I felt like I was watching a horror movie. Like, God, you get up and run. You know, like there's just times.
Yeah, it does that a lot.
There's just moments where you're like, what in the fuck is going on? That's why I can't get on board with the beginning of it. I can make the leap with, oh, this is a movie and this is, you know, okay, I can buy into that, whatever. But the buying into some of the things that these characters do and some of the things that they say, I'm like, what the figgity fuck is going on around here?
See, I can. Sorry to keep interrupting, man.
No, I don't give a fuck.
I do. Okay, so I can buy poor character decisions before I can buy your body like physically changing because of your mental will, your mental state. You know what I mean?
Like I think the interesting thing about the multiple personalities are that basically part of me is like, okay, well, if this is something that does exist in the human body, even though later, I mean, the Beast literally says, like, do you think that'll hurt me? Like, I'm not human.
But you are.
Right, yeah. It's like, but the only thing I can think is the way they describe him. You know, he's like, as Dennis is describing him, he's like, well, he's much bigger than me. And I'm like, well, how can he be bigger than you? Like, I guess it's kind of, I think that it comes down to, you know, it's kind of like when you hear people that talk about it's almost like a body dysmorphia kind of thing. Like, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm born a man, but I want to be a woman. This is what I should be. This is blah, blah, blah. I think it can kind of be linked to that to some degree.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And I don't give a fuck. Be whatever you want to be. If you want to wake up tomorrow morning and you want to be a tiger, go right ahead. I don't care.
100%. Like,
right.
I'm all for free will, so.
Right. But it's like, but in my cinema, in my movies, you know, it is kind of hard to make that jump, but it's not impossible for me just because it is an intriguing concept. It's kind of like seeing people, you know, you always hear the thing, oh, you know, a woman was able to lift a car off of her baby because of, you know, heightened blah, blah, blah. And seeing people's reactions to high stress level environments. Basically, all of these personalities are from Kevin being severely abused as a child. Which you know, it's not too crazy to think, okay, well, here's Dennis. Dennis is there to protect him and blah, blah, blah. But it does get kind of hard to make that kind of jump with the whole, I mean, literally, I can understand him being stronger just by, you know, okay, well, I believe that I can move this fast. I believe that I can lift this fast.
That's
but
what I'm
like
saying,
you said,
the belief of will, right? Like your mental state, kind of you believing that you can do that.
Right, yeah, that's where you kind of like the movie magic bullshit kind of just gets sprinkled over things. But either way, this has been our longest opening thoughts ever. But yeah, are you ready to jump into this thing?
Yeah. So wait, before we get into it. So did you like it? Did you like the movie? Did we?
I do. I do own it, even though it was just kind of like a gamble. But I do. I definitely like it. Maybe I don't think I like it as much as the first time that I saw it.
Okay, right. So we are like two ships passing in the night. We are
right.
Completely opposite. Yeah, this is going to be a good talk, I think.
There's a lot of stuff with this movie that, you know, leaves me kind of scratching my head, and I think there's some stuff they could have left out, but we'll get all into that and more as we get through this. But yeah, kind of right off the bat, I do like this shot. I like the shot of Casey staring out the window, and, you know, we've got everybody else kind of, you know, enjoying the party and blowing out the candles behind her and all that stuff. It's just a little overhanded right off the bat. You know, here's this girl staring at a window. It looks like something from, you know, it looks like a MySpace music video from like the early 2000s, like on the Fuse channel or something like that, like a Hawthorne Heights video. It's just like super emo. It's like a little over the top. But yeah, that's basically where we learn that it's basically a pity invite, that they don't really you know, they don't. I mean, and it is nice. I it does suck because I've been in this situation before where it's like, oh, well, you know, I've got to invite somebody that I don't really want to invite, but I'd feel like a dick if I don't let them. Like,
I think we've all been there. We can all understand this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, just a funny story. I have a friend of mine. We're about 12 years old. We're having a birthday party, and this kid shows up who lived next door, and my friend couldn't stand him, and he was just like, "What are you doing here?"
Holy shit,
dude! He was just like,
"That's like fucking dropping the nuke,
dude." I mean, and I will never forget that. And he was just like, no. Like, I didn't, you know, but I didn't invite you over, you know, but I was like, damn, dude, I remember as a kid, like, God, what a poor kid. But I mean, that is kind of like, oh, hey, let me just show up to your party, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, yeah, I guess you're kind of asking for it if you know you're not invited and you just show up. But I always thought that was fucking hilarious. But yeah, we, the three girls we're going with, that's Casey, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who's also in The Witch, which is a good movie. I've got that one as well.
She'll be returning in Glass.
Do what?
She's going to be returning in Glass.
Oh, I thought you said Slowly Revolving in Glass. I was like, no, I don't like The Witch that much that I put it under like some kind of like laser beam grid trap. Like, but yeah, we've also got Claire and Marcia, played by Haley Lou Richardson and Jessica Sola. I've never seen the other two of them in jack shit. So
I've seen Claire. She was in The Edge of 17, Edge of something like that. It was it was okay. It was a movie with Haley Steinfeld. It was nominated for an Oscar, so that's why I watched it. But it's a bit angsty, but whatever. It was okay.
You and your fucking Oscars.
Yeah. Some of us, you know, like to be a little fancy.
Yeah, some of us are a little civilized.
Charmed.
Yeah. But yeah, basically we've got this party for Claire. You know, her dad's
like the dad here.
Yeah, the dad is pretty funny, actually. Yeah. He's like, his humor is very quick. His acting was just like great. I thought he was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he's like being like also being the responsible parent, even though the other girls want to leave. Like, he offers to drive her home instead of taking the bus. Like, I dig that.
Yeah, that's definitely, and that's something I feel like in the South that we did as well, just because it was like, no, I'm not going to leave you here. Come on, let's go, you know, blah, blah, blah.
But he also might be a massive creep.
Yeah, I mean, there is looking at him like he's almost too nice. I'm like, nah, you've got some body somewhere. Like,
dude, there are a lot of moments in this movie where I was like, ooh, this is getting a little creepy.
Oh, dude, yeah. But yeah, basically, you know, the girls want to ditch her there. Her ride's not showing up. She says a car's broke down. But Mr. Benoit, I believe is his name, offers to drive her home. This is the worst part of the movie coming up.
I think this is one of the best parts of the movie.
God, fucking god damn it.
Okay, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So we're talking about the parking lot scene, correct?
I'm sorry?
We're talking about the parking lot scene?
Yeah.
The parking lot? Yeah, okay. So I can tell why you don't like it. And I'll probably, you know what? I'll take us through this scene. So I love that I just like take control. I'm like, give me the controller. Give me the controller.
Let me tell you why you're wrong.
Let me play. But no, I like it because for what M. Night's going for here, it's really well done. I like the first person sort of take. Like, you know, I really like that kind of. How the dad just turns around, can I help you? Like, you know, it's really kind of like immediately unsettling. And then like, there's no music that's underscored here or anything like that. It's really just like camera work. You know, that's the only thing that makes this unsettling. Just kind of like Casey looking at the rear view and then, the camera pans over, like it's just kind of like above the windshield. And then should we call him Kevin? Let's call him Kevin. Kevin sits down in the driver's seat. And I know your problem with this because it's more like, what the fuck are these girls doing like for this entire like 30 seconds, right?
Right.
which I have in my notes as well, because it's inexcusable. A strange man sits down in the driver's seat, like seriously, and you're still playing in the back in the back seat with your fucking little iPad or whatever the fuck it is. Like, come on.
See, now that I believe that part. I don't believe the whole sitting there slowly turning to see this person who's not obviously the person that should be there, and then just staring at us. Like,
I think she's in shock. I kind of buy that a little bit more, but only because they sell Casey as this character who's deeply traumatized, and she's not a normal teenager, whereas the kids, the girls in the back are, and that's why their reactions are a bit more sort of conventional. But yeah, this it is a bit jarring. Like their reactions are a bit sort of horror movie-ish. But I liked it. This is because this was in the trailer. This was the kind of like selling point for me in the trailer. I was like, oh, this is fucking weird. It's also weird, right? Like it's not a normal kind of kidnapping that you're watching here. Like how often do you see someone people get kidnapped in this way? Like this completely like calm guy sits down in the front seat, methodically puts on a mask, and then maces everyone in the car. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's the only thing that got me was like I can buy her kind of like being in shock. But the thing that kind of contradicts that for me is after, you know, he puts on the mask, he gasses the two girls in the back. That I totally buy. You know, they're kind of freaking out like, you know, like a normal person would. But as she opens the door, and I'm like, literally, if you just lean to the right like a drunk asshole, you would fall out of the car and be away from him. Like, that's the only thing that drives me nuts is opening up the door and it dings and you stop there. It's like, no, like that'd be like a burglar breaking into a house, and as soon as the window breaks, he's like, oh shit. It's like, no, you're committed, man. Like, you got to go with it. Like,
I've got no defense for that. I like, even when I saw this in the cinema, I was like, I don't know why she stopped. Like, okay, I get that it's a moment of tension, but logically it doesn't really make sense. But I do like McAvoy's reaction. Like his face is scary, man. Like I'm horrified.
I would totally believe it if it were just like as she opens up the door, just boom, there's a hand on her arm or something is preventing her from leaving. But like just stopping of your own volition, like you just started of your own volition. Like, why are you stopping? Like that's the only thing that absolutely drives me nuts about the very beginning of this. And I was like, okay, I can get past it, whatever.
One thing that really drove me nuts about this was assault and kidnapping in broad daylight. Like, and like no one picked up on it. No one picked up on this, on the father getting assaulted. I assumed he probably hit him on his head or something like that. And like we saw kind of like a wide shot, and there were like plenty of cars. Like surely someone would have seen something. I don't know. I don't buy that. I buy that a little less.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of like, okay, broad daylight, whatever. But
I dig this title sequence though.
Do what?
I really dig this title sequence with the where it's just basically telling you all the names, you know, who's in it and the title.
Yeah, and definitely like the cover of this, when you look at Split and then you look at Unbreakable, it's like, oh, shattered glass on the cover of both. Like, I see what you did there. Glass. But yeah, basically we get Casey, Claire, and is it Marcia waking up in this dungeon of a room. Looks like something fucking out in the back of Ed Gein's house.
I was gonna say Buffalo Bill, but yeah, we're on the same. I think Buffalo Bill was inspired by Ed Gein, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you know, just these some of these first shots that are, you know, that are really great, just of her kind of like waking up on the ground, and you know, again, like the movie kind of loses me like right off the bat, but then immediately I'm like, okay, well, why are they here? Like, what's the mystery? Like, what exactly is going on? I don't really, like, and the room is just like, well, where the fuck could this possibly be? Like, where the hell is this? That's one of the most intriguing things about the whole movie. I think that kind of kept me like, kept me in the whole time. It's like, where the fuck is this actually? But and that's another great reveal later on in the movie. But yeah, just like with this whole first scene of of him coming in and just setting down the chair and staring at all of them, and it's like okay,
not only that, but doing the weird like wiping the chair before sitting down. Like you can tell, because I really like the way they shape these identities. Like this guy's got OCD. Mm-hmm. It's pretty clever.
Yeah, fucking Dennis. Dennis is definitely one of the most intimidating ones. But and that's the of course right off the bat we have a grown man abducting three girls. We kind of assume what he's going to do to at least one of them. There's going to be some kind of like sexual assault, which is right off the bat.
Choose you first. Jesus Christ,
dude! Oh my God! Like right off the bat, our worst fears are confirmed.
But I love the little detail of Marsha pulling down her skirt, pulling down her dress.
Yeah,
it's just a cool little like touch. I think. Right.
It definitely alludes to kind of what I feel most people are thinking about. Like, this is not going to end well.
Yeah, there's no way you're watching this moment and you haven't considered it already. Like, no matter how fucked up your mind is, like, even if you've never seen a movie, you can kind of get a vibe as to what's probably going to happen here.
Right, exactly. One thing I do like is that Casey is so observant. When Dennis is in the car, as soon as he gets in the car, he starts cleaning up trash. Like he literally started picking up trash with the yellow handkerchief. So I think right away she's kind of like, okay, this guy is a clean freak. So she tells Marcia to pee on herself, which
really
absolutely, yeah, dude. When he comes back into that room, the way he screams is just it's just this kind of like almost like he's gasping. Just this kind of like, oh my God, like that is so fucking offensive. Like that's just so like. I totally buy that.
God damn, McAvoy is just a powerhouse in this. I fucking love him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And now here comes some of the. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. I don't want to say, obviously it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, but all of these flashbacks with her dad and her uncle kind of like leading up to this.
I really like these moments. I mean, like not like them, but yeah. I do like that they give you a kind of like a backstory. At first, I was a bit like, why? How is this relevant to what we're watching? That's what kind of like took me out of it when I first watched it. But I liked this time around when I watched it. I was like, I wanted to kind of like get an understanding of how Casey's story relates to Kevin's story, and that's because they're both born out of trauma, right? Like Casey's weird. We already know, like from the get-go, that Casey's weird, and we find out through this backstory how she became that way, and I think that's why she kind of like later she accepts to kissing Hedwig. Like she's a bit more understandable. She's a bit more understanding and sympathetic to Kevin's sort of like condition. And I really liked it this time around. There was a lot of at first I was like, this is kind of done for shock value. I wasn't able to sort of connect it. It definitely is very shocking, especially to put into a PG-13 movie, but it is, I guess, the best way to explain a character like this. Not to go too deep on a tangent, but I know a girl who was like this, and because this was the reason. It's the way Casey acts in this is really kind of like it hit me. a little harder than it probably would hit someone who wouldn't know someone like this, because it was very accurate. The way she's kind of like withdrawn from a lot of things. It's done very. I think it's done very well.
Word, yeah, I think so too. I think there's things the more character problems that I have are actually with the two other girls, way more than with Casey. Like there are some things that she says and that she does that I'm kind of like, like what the fuck. But at the same time, you can understand like where she's coming from, and she's also very good at manipulating these personalities. We see that right off the bat. She's able to kind of manipulate Dennis. Hey, pee on yourself. She knows how to manipulate that. She knows how to manipulate Hedwig. Not really with Patricia, because there's not really anything there to manipulate, but there is there is a good kind of like she's. I guess it'd be oversimplifying it. I don't want to say that she's just in touch with that kind of like damaged person. Like she knows how to, or not necessarily what that person is going through, but she understands there's obviously a lot of like darkness like in her. And I think she understands that also within like Kevin and the different personalities and stuff. And she can empathize with that. And through that empathy, I think she can manipulate it. And I don't mean manipulate in a bad way. She's trying to escape. But manipulate that for her own end to escape, obviously, and not be eaten, but which is like, holy shit, I never saw that coming in this movie. But yeah, we kind of get some of our first shots of, isn't it Dr. Fletcher? Isn't that her name? Dr. Fletcher?
Yeah, Dr. Fletcher. I just wanted to shout out the cinematographer in this movie, because some of the shots in this movie are fantastic. Like it kind of like it feels claustrophobic when it wants to feel like claustrophobic, but like I really love this shot of the staircase, kind of like a top-down shot. Later when we see the beast, like there are some really cool like cinematography tricks and things like that. So the cinematographer's name is Mike Giolakis. But yeah, that was I didn't want to let that go by.
Oh, no, yeah, that's cool. I like that shot of the stairs as well of her coming up, and we see on the news that
oh shit, this guy did the cinematography for It Follows, which was really good as well. Yeah, okay, it feels very similar, right?
Yeah, I can definitely see it with with especially like the framing of things and these real close up wider shots. Yeah. But yeah, we see Dr. Fletcher and her coming to her office, see it on the news of the three girls being abducted. And she gets an email from Barry, saying that, we need help. We need to talk. And this is going to become something throughout the movie that's becoming, more frequent as well. And this is kind of something else that I'll harp on, but I'll get back onto it like later. I don't want to start here because it's like later on is when it kind of becomes an issue for me. But either way, before I go off on that tangent as well, we cut back to, the girls in the room. They're trying to devise some kind of way to escape, basically saying, I took 6 months of, karate, trying to figure out some way that they just that they're just going to, basically attack him. This is another scene I fucking hate. I don't know what it was. It was honestly more of the acting of all three of them. That's the only thing that gets me is honestly just the portrayals from Marcia and Casey.
I think I'm a bit more forgiving here with their acting. But yeah, it is a little brutal.
Oh my God. Literally the line, Marcia's like, Claire Smart, let's listen to her. I'm like, God, I mean, good Lord.
Who says that in real life, right? Like, yeah.
Right. And that's the thing is Claire is just so, I like her delivery, like to an extent. She's, she's kind of, she's driven, she's motivated. She wants to attack this guy. These are things that I would be thinking about if I were in this room, but she's kind of, I don't know. There's something about her that she's a little bit too in your face about it. I don't know. There's something that just kind of annoyed me about her character. And I like with Casey, I don't mind it so much because we understand why she acts the way that she acts and why she is, the way that she is. There's, obviously a whole backstory or a subplot that's going on during this movie that we come to understand. But even just their delivery of the lines, we can win. He'll hurt us. I'm like, dude, like it's almost like soap opera acting in a way. It's very rough. And again, this is another thing that just kind of, it took me out of it right at the beginning. This beginning is really hard for me to get through, and it's so funny that like I'm just taking a shit all over your Sunday right now, and I love it.
See, for me, the first half is more interesting because I like seeing Kevin. I think we get better Kevin than we get in the second half. I like seeing these kind of like different sort of these identities and them kind of like being played by Casey, and in turn like them playing Dr. Fletcher or trying to play Dr. Fletcher. I'm really kind of like fascinated by Kevin's character, and I think we get more of a character piece in the first half than the second half, but that's just me. But dude, after the scene, I really like this flashback. This is actually my favorite flashback of all of them, to be honest. Basically, Casey's father is teaching her to hunt, and she's adorable. This young actress, right?
She's
like, boys make too much noise.
Yeah, she's really cute.
It's beautiful. I really like this moment. But my favorite part, and look, I said favorite, but it's not, it's not amazing. I love that the uncle hands the dad he's out of the shot, but it's kind of like a reminder that he was always there, kind of thing. Like he's always like encroaching on her life. Like it's a beautiful little thing, I think.
Right, yeah, and not only is there this encroachment, but also it comes bearing gifts. It's this whole thing of like, oh, here you go, because I'm your little brother and I've always got your back. But at the same time, like, we know the other side of that coin. It's like, that's fucking terrifying, especially because I think this guy that's playing her uncle is the prison guard from Orange Is the New Black.
Dude, I have that in my notes. I was going to bring it up. Yeah, because that season where he gets introduced is when this came out, and I was like, oh shit, it's him. And he's a dick in that as well.
Right, yeah. That's like, man, this guy can't catch a fucking break. I mean, he is a monster of a guy. I mean, he's huge. Like, he's never going to play, like a leading man or anything. But I mean, he's always going to be some kind of antagonist.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of, we cut over to, that we cut over to. Sorry, I keep forgetting her name. Dr. Hatcher, right? Fletcher. God, I keep wanting to say Hatcher.
Got Terry Hatcher on your mind, mate.
Yeah, right. But yeah, basically Dr. Fletcher with Barry, she's asking about the email that she got, and he's just kind of brushing it off, showing some sketches. Now, Barry is the main personality that controls Kevin. He is in control of what they call the light. The light is basically who's got the microphone, I guess, who's going to be behind the controls. And they're just to establish some things, that basically they all sit in a room with chairs and they have to wait to get their turn to receive the light. And there's some of them that are banned, like Dennis and Patricia. Yeah, that's great. Like,
I love that.
Part of me almost wishes I could have seen some imagery from it. Just a black room with chairs and just people sitting in it. Like, I wouldn't have
mind.
Like
a surreal kind of thing. Yeah, it would have been cool, man.
Right. I wouldn't have mind seeing that. I don't mind not seeing it. It's okay. Less is more. It kind of lets me, in my own imagination, that's what I saw. But, and I'm sure that's going to be different from whatever M. Night Shyamalan was thinking.
Now this is actually Dennis here, though, right? It's Dennis pretending to be Barry.
Right. Yeah. Basically, the whole time that these sessions are going on, the undesirable personalities, if you want to call them that, have basically taken over and have pushed out Barry, and all of the seemingly normal ones, and they've pushed them out and taken over because they're making way for the beast. So yeah, all of this shit is just Dennis, and you can tell when he shifts the candy when he shifts the candy jar over just a little bit, and it's like, damn,
can't hide his OCD, and that's right. How Fletcher picks it up as well.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. That's another thing, just her exposition here. You're meticulous. You're blah, blah, blah. I mean, you're even a manager.
She's rough. She is, like, especially first time I saw this, man, I was like, oh, this character is rough. I can't deal with it.
Right. I mean, she might as well have been like, I mean, look at you. You were born at night on a Friday and you're a blood type AB negative. It's like, dude, Jesus Christ. But, she just goes on about how, he's been able to hold a job down for the longest time, that he's been there 10 years and that he's in management. We don't really understand exactly where it is that he works.
Colin, I got a question for you.
Yo.
How does a person like this have a job? Like, how does this person live in society?
Yeah, that's kind of. I
mean, I'm not being mentally. I'm not being like insensitive. This is a legitimate question.
No, for sure. Like, this person has the potential to be extremely dangerous
and clever at the same time, right? And which he is. He's ridiculously clever. He's like fooling. Well, he's trying to fool this psychiatrist, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier is kind of one of the things that gripe me about this email is that she understands how dangerous he has the potential to be. Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, what is capable of, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. What his potential is, what he's capable of. And she's, over the course of however long this story takes place, she keeps getting emails from these other personalities. It's like, you need to call the cops. Like, you need to do something.
She lets it go on too much. Like, it doesn't jive.
Right, exactly. It doesn't drive at all because it's like, it's some kind of mental health facilitator or professional. At what point do you get the authorities involved? Because she knows. I mean, she outright calls him out. She's like, "This is not Barry. This is Dennis." And she does it twice. It's like you know what's going on here. And maybe she thinks it's something that she can fix or something that she can take care of, but.
Like, I guarantee you, if she calls the cops here, coupled with the fact that Casey later is able to get her hands on a fucking on the two-way radio, which fucking I'll get into that scene later. I have a lot of problems about that scene. And what are the parents of all three children doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is there a search? Are they being, Obviously, right, they're being missed. Like,
is there anything proactive? I mean, we see the news flash, but we don't really see. Yeah, we don't really see anything else beyond that. Like, which is kind of interesting. We really only see it from, I think it almost might be a thing from where we're used to seeing the investigative side of things, and now we're actually in the kidnapping, and we never. And maybe that's intentional to make us feel the claustrophobia of being in these little rooms, which I definitely felt that way. I mean, this movie was shot on such a low budget, and I think that I say such a low budget, but I mean it's $9 million. But I mean,
you're not gonna make me guess.
Yeah, I tell you. All right, okay. What do you think it made at the box office? $9 million budget.
I think it did well, right?
I don't know.
Fuck you. Yeah, you do.
I'm staring at it right now.
I'm gonna say somewhere around 100 mil.
$278 million.
Shit. So yeah, really well.
Yeah, off of a $9 million budget. Now, I mean, I feel like most of that $9 million budget went to obviously some of their special effects. They do have a cameo by Bruce Willis. We've got James McAvoy. We've got some.
You've got M. Night.
Yeah, right. You got M. Night. I think they do a great job of making us feel claustrophobic in the confines of basically what they're under the zoo, basically, right? They're in some kind of expansion or extension of it. But I think that maybe it is good that they don't show the investigative side of this or the whole, oh yeah, we're trying to find you or blah, blah, blah. Because it might take away a little bit from our from our feelings of claustrophobia.
No, I totally understand. I just think, just from a logical standpoint, I would have liked to see a bit more of what these parents, the parents of these kids are doing, because these kids, I mean, obviously they're missing, and then you've got this strange character who's being suspected by a psychiatrist, who also has a legal obligation to report crimes and things like that to the police. Even though it's protected by by client doctor-patient confidentiality, you still have a legal obligation to report anything dangerous, or if you think a crime's been committed. A lot of that I just didn't buy. I don't know, and just with this Fletcher character, I'm definitely on board with you. I really don't like her. I think I don't like her mainly because, for you it's exposition. For me, it's because she's trying to soften the blow of what the Beast is going to become on screen. Like, she's trying to be like, and then, the mental can affect our physical. And I was just like, okay, lady, like, you keep spouting your bullshit. I'm not on board.
Right. Yeah. I think that, she's, especially with some of these themes coming up, which, I mean, again, this is why this movie felt like it just dragged onto me. Are just these scenes of her just fucking hanging out with her friends and going to art galleries and shit. And then I'm like, I get it. I understand we have to build some of this up. Her whole philosophy of, what if they're more than us? What if they have, some kind of,
people are more than us. That's what she says.
Right. Yeah. And basically we're just getting a whole lot of the philosophy behind this, of why these things are potentially capable.
It's like M. Night read a textbook and just wrote it into the script.
Right. But see, that's the thing that annoys the fuck out of me, is if she were a teacher and she were teaching somewhere and she also had her own private practice and showed her in a classroom explaining these things, like, I could buy that. We actually see that in The Conjuring, with Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga. Like, we kind of see that at the beginning of it. They're at a classroom. They're doing a demonstration. We don't tell them about it. Like, we actually see
film,
it.
Right? Yeah.
Right. And it's like, here, you just keep telling me about the potential that all these people have. And it's such a fucking dramatic fashion. Like, all the time. It's always, when at first she's talking to her friend and they're watching the TV and she says, you don't believe them, do you? Your patients? Oh, well, what if they can be more than us, and blah, blah, blah. And, not to skip ahead, I don't want to skip too far ahead, because right after that, we're introduced to Patricia, and we see Patricia, they think that literally he does such a good job portraying, this female personality, that they think it's a woman. They think it's a totally different person, which is absolutely fantastic. This is one of the best reveals of one of his personalities, in my opinion.
I don't want to go past it. Sorry, just quickly. When he's talking to Dr. Fletcher, I love that he refers to all of his identities as us. Mm-hmm, dude, that's fucking cool, man.
It's kind of like a Venom thing, us. I'm like, that's
Venom.
Cool.
It's cool.
But basically, I like Patricia a lot. I think she's actually one of my favorite personalities.
She's really intimidating.
Right, dude. It's almost like how Scarlett Johansson was in the Jungle Book as like the snake. Like, there's something about that that's very
cool, man. Good pull.
Thank you. That's just kind of what it reminded me of. I read some things about people giving shit to James McAvoy about his vocal work in this. That some things kind of end up. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Shut
dude.
Up.
I mean, for one thing, the guy is Scottish, and not one of these goddamn characters is Scottish the entire time.
Yeah.
And the differences between Barry, Dennis, Hedwig, Patricia, and even later on when he's just Kevin, and later on when he's the Beast. Like, I had a hard time buying that it was his voice when he was the Beast. Especially in the shots when he's in shadow and he's calling out. Like, I was like, dude, that does not sound like James McAvoy.
Yeah,
I was like, what in the fuck?
I thought they modulated it a little bit.
Which they very well might have.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, like, I think this movie does a really good job of sort of differentiating between each of the identities. like each one has a sort of a really sort of distinct thing, and like that's, as an actor for McAvoy, that's a really big hurdle to overcome, I think.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But I love this with. I love this whole thing with Patricia coming in and just the reveal. You know, they're all looking at him / her, and they're just like, what the fuck?
See, this was ruined by the trailer for me. This would have been an amazing reveal if I hadn't seen the trailer beforehand.
Oh, thank God I didn't see it. This is actually one of my favorite parts of the movie is the reveal. Yeah. This is where I start to pick up steam. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because this is wild. This is so wild,
dude. And just his dialogue of, I've talked to Dennis, and he's not allowed to touch you. And I'm like, dude, yes,
the delivery of it. His facial work is so good.
The lips tighten together, and kind of you see the jawline refine more, and the whole he's standing up straight and very prim, very proper. It's like, okay, like I totally see this. And also,
I'm sure he's pretending to be a British person, right?
Yeah, right.
That's so British.
Oh yeah. But sorry, I was taking a swig of my drink.
It's all good.
But this is more of kind of like that philosophical exposition, if you want to call it that, between Dr.
Skip.
Skip, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You know,
it doesn't add anything to the story, I think.
Right. If anything, it kind of sets some things up. They're basically saying that she can't have her own conference. She's going to be part of the mood disorder panel. She's arguing that it's not. She's arguing that it's not anything about moods. She's saying that basically her evidence is a dog that's reacting to people differently, or reacting to multiple personalities within the same person. And this is just where they beat us over the fucking head with it. Whoever this guy is, Joe, that he's talking to, yeah, exactly. You speak about them like they have powers or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is where you're starting to lose me, dude. Because
this is the mental state affecting the physical body, and I just as someone who kind of thinks logically, and I didn't know that this was the direction the movie was headed in. I didn't know that this was in the Unbreakable universe. I thought this was literally like an abduction kidnapping movie. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh God, what are we doing here? Like,
right.
I would have liked to see that, man. I would have liked to see a more realistic, grounded take on it than this kind of like superhero amalgamation. I guess he's more of a supervillain.
Right. Yeah. And it's something that I do like the shot of her in the art gallery, actually, as she's looking at the painting. We see multiple bodies, basically. It's kind of symbolic about what's going on with Kevin and Dennis and blah, blah, blah. I do like that, but if they'd have just put this up against something that was a little less just knocking us over the fucking head the whole time, or either her teaching a seminar or teaching a class, like I would have been fine with it. But just having conversations with people and, just outright beating us over the head with it, it's so ham-fisted. I'm like, okay, I don't need all of this, but moving on, I love the scene of Dennis walking in and making them clean the bathroom. I would have been like, fuck you, dude, I'm not cleaning that shit. Fuck you. In fact, I took a shit all over the walls. I'm not fuck you.
Sprayed this shit with my diarrhea.
Right, yeah, dude. I can, when he holds out the thing, he's just so arrogant. He holds out the bucket and he's like, the blue one's for the floors, blah, blah, blah. Which is great vocal work. Dennis is obviously from Brooklyn.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, this is where he says, I have talked to Miss Patricia and I promise not to touch you again. And he says, you're basically safe for the great feast or something along those lines.
Sacred food.
Sacred food, dude.
Like at this point, I'm like, hey, girls, for sure commit suicide right now.
Dude, oh my God. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, you're being talked about like sacred food, that there's multiple people coming out like I don't care what's going through your, like what your past traumas are or what's going on in your life right that moment. Like the next time that guy comes through the door, just fucking bum rush him. Like, I mean, wait till he's Patricia or Hedwig and fucking crush his skull. Like I don't care what you do.
I think they should have gone to Hedwig a little harder. I think, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they're way too soft on him. Yeah, I guess he is a 9-year-old, but fuck it. Like, this guy's basically keeping you hostage. I do like what Marsha says here. Like, I think she goes for like the logical explanation. She thinks that he's got dogs and like he's gonna feed them to his dogs.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which, I mean, going back to the whole thing about Hedwig, yeah, I would fucking beat the shit out of that kid if it meant I was getting the hell out of there. Like, I don't care.
Fucking punt that kid to the next fucking stadium, yo.
Right. Which, I mean, but what's funny is he's another one of my favorite of the personalities that comes out, and especially the way they introduce him. That's one of the most iconic shots of the whole movie is him sitting cross like, oh, it's so good.
So like, good.
And again, like, and I've said this 1,000 times on this podcast, when you've got something like when they wake up and he's sitting there in the door and they like it's super close, him in the foreground, and then in the background we see the door, and it's very I feel like it's very symbolic of look how far away that door seems, like look how far away freedom seems from you.
Also, this is the only thing that stands between you and freedom, right? Like,
right, exactly. But that's another thing. It's like, even if you got through this door, you don't even know how many more are on the other side of that door. It's like, oh God, like that's terrifying.
Yeah, I think McAvoy's portrayal of Hedwig is my favorite. I think just the way he moves, like his movement, it's fantastic. His facial acting is fantastic. The voice work, so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love as he's going through and talking about, you know, the beast is coming for you. You know, they ask him about they ask him about the sacred food thing. You know, he just kind of like the way he shrugs it off, and he always like does his lips. He's like, oh, I don't know. You know, I'm like, oh, dude, that's fucking hilarious. And he plays a kid so well, you know, oh, no, I'm not supposed to say, you know, like, dude, he's fucking great.
But is this a normal kid, or is this like a not all up there kind of kid?
Is he a can't get right? Like, I'm not 100% sure.
Is he a little, yeah.
Right. But yeah, I like how,
she manipulates him, right?
Yeah, but just the line, she's like, so wait, you're not the guy that took us? He's like, no, what are you, blind?
He's so good. He's fucking fantastic, man. But she pulls him in, and this is the moment where you just kind of like smack him in the face with your knee.
Right, yeah, like, or like take one of your heels off and jam it in his fucking eye. Like, do something,
dude. You're
dude.
wearing heels. Like, I didn't realize that until Claire pulls it out. And I was like, they're wearing heels? Like, you can't... I don't know.
Like, whittle that shit down like a prison shank and fucking put it in his kidney. But yeah, this is great. This is where, you know, she'll... and it's, God, just such a good shot of him right before he closes the door, and he's got the arm of the door looking at her and smiling, but also when he like walks over to her where he stood. That's creepy as fuck, man.
Creepy as fuck.
Oh, dude. But this is, like you said, this is where she kind of manipulates him, you know, that this guy's going to be coming for you, that they say they want a boy this time. And it actually kind of works on him a little bit. You know, he's kind of like, well, no, you know, I didn't do anything wrong. You know, I love the shots with Hedwig. They're some of the best ones. I don't know what it is about the way that they do the shots with him, with his face being so close up in the camera and everything else but looking so far back. This is one of my favorite scenes. So this is why I'm saying, like, the first, literally, we're at the 27-minute mark, and I'm like, all right, like, I can get into it, you know, like, I can start digging this. But even, he starts crying. Like, he literally starts, like, shedding tears about, like, the fact that he thinks he's in trouble like a little kid. It's like, damn, that's fucking great. And just basically talking about how Miss Patricia thinks that he's stupid and, like, all this other stuff. It's like, God damn, dude. Like, that is so fucking good.
Yeah, it's fucking solid. McAvoy is just... I can harp on McAvoy about this performance for ages, man. But it's fantastic. But yeah, he leaves. Hedwig just fucking outright just fucking slams the door behind him, and the girl. But he mentioned something, right? Before he leaves.
I remember I have to blow my nose.
Well, he talks about making the room safe. And basically the girls, assume that at one point this room was unsafe, and that means obviously to hold them captive there, right? So I love how this is great. This is what we needed instead of dialogue. Some action from these girls. Just the way they're like, tapping around on the walls and shit, like trying to find like a hollow point. But yeah, Claire pulls out her heel, starts digging away at the thing. This is a cool moment of tension. Really like this. I think the big thing to take away from here, though, from this, is McAvoy as Hedwig pushing against the door and McAvoy as Dennis pushing against the door. Like, dude, so fucking cool.
Yeah, his strength, the comparison in strength is just like, holy shit. Like, he just, like, literally you can feel Hedwig and he's like, you got to be a bitches, and I love his dialogue. But, like, you can tell when Dennis comes back and it's like, oh shit. And the way he just stands there in the door with his shirt unbuttoned, it's like, dude, that guy's pretty pissed off if he didn't take the time to button that shirt up. Like, he's fucking as OCD as he is. But
yeah, and like that this isn't one of those things that I'm complaining about him being stronger in a different sort of like identity. This is more like a force of will thing. Like, as Dennis, you can get through this door, whereas as a Hedwig, you don't really have that kind of confidence and things like that. Like,
Right, yeah. I think one interesting thing, too, about Hedwig is the fact that he's the only one, I think, that can take the light whenever he wants. Like, he's the only one that can just, like, snap right into it, which is so funny because the one person who's, like, almost powerless has the opportunity to jump in anytime that they want. I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool. That's interesting. But
I don't get how that works, though.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe it's just the more you...
convenience.
Yeah, or the more you want it, like, the less you're going to get it, and if you don't give a fuck, it's like, it's just the ease of it. I don't know. But either way, Claire makes a run for it. She gets pretty goddamn far, dude. She gets all the way through those lockers and escapes to the vet. And, Dennis finds her again. And he even says, he's like, oh, I thought I almost lost you. And it's like, oh, fuck, you're so close.
Can I throw something out there?
Yo.
And as a 24-year-old, I can say this. Claire is hot.
At first I totally thought this was like, I just called her not Hayden Panettiere. Like, that's just totally who I thought that she was through the whole movie.
From Heroes, yeah. Her name's Haley Lou Richardson. Well, she was born in 95, I was born in 93. So, hey, Haley Lou, if you're listening to this, let's go for coffee.
Yeah, right. Give me a call. But yeah, basically they wind up separating her from the rest of the group and sealing her off, and they seal up the vent up there, which is just again just a real kind of like morally crushing defeat. We get more of shit with Dr. Fletcher Hatcher or whatever the fuck her name is, because I just don't fucking care anymore. Just her dead eyeing the fucking camera, looking right into it, and I'm literally fast forwarding through it and I'm falling asleep. Like, it's like, holy shit. But it's just, just basically her talking about, again, same shit that we've heard fucking 20 times about multiple personalities and how, one of them needs insulin and, one of them likes to do the grocery shopping, but the other one doesn't, or whatever the fuck is going on. That's what I hate, man, is that it is interesting and I can buy that. I can buy it just as well as I can buy it's kind of like Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. They give him this like super strength, but it's just enough to where it is a little unbelievable. You see him punching through cement blocks and shit later on in the movie, but like that is so tastefully done because we don't see him like literally rip people in half or like bend metal bars. All we see is in his kind of final moments of The Dark Knight Rises where he's panicking and he's swinging at everything, him literally punching through fucking brick. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like that's tasteful. You gave me just a little bit more than I was like, okay, that's unbelievable, but it's okay because I'm here at a movie, versus with this, it like constantly wants to stay at that level of like unbelievability, I guess, if you want to call it that, which again, I understand I'm watching a movie, but it's like it's a little hard to get over sometimes because they just consistently stay at that level. Like if you just gave me little bits and pieces of that, it would be okay, but with the whole climbing on the walls and then bending the bars and jumping over fences and stuff, it is cool, but just tone that down just a little bit more, and it'll makes me appreciate the moments that come more because I don't get them as frequently.
I agree, and I think all of these like Dr. Fletcher moments of like her explaining all this is like just a way to kind of like soften the blow for when the beast does come, and I didn't buy it. Sure, maybe other people would have, but I literally wrote in my notes, Fletcher is not selling me about the psychological affecting the physical. It just doesn't happen. It's not a hurdle that I can get over, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, we get Barry showing up. He sent another email, I think, this time. Yep. Basically saying that they need to talk. She doesn't, she is taking it seriously. But to a point
she thinks
that
one of the other identities emailed her, right? Not Barry.
Right. She's not. I mean, there's just so fucking many. I can't even remember which one exactly that she says.
I wrote them down. She's like, I think it might have been Orwell or Heinrich or Samuel or Jade.
Yeah, it's like holy shit, and we actually do get to see some of those in the video files later on, which is really interesting. It kind of makes me wish I'd seen at least one or two more like undesirables. But the three that we get are such a great hand. Between Dennis, Patricia, and Hedwig, it's kind of like mother, father, son. I actually do like that like little turn. But yeah, she basically calls him out right here and says, this is not Barry, this is Dennis. You've adjusted the candy bowl twice, and he's trying to blow her off. I don't know why he's saying this, and he eats the candy and throws the wrapper and tries to throw her off. But she's kind of, she knows that he knows that she knows that he knows kind of thing. She it's like she can tell that he's trying to blow her off, but she's just going to play it cool and basically act like, oh, you must forgive me. It's my job to challenge you and blah blah blah, and she's trying to kind of get him off guard. She's trying to make him ease now because she knows for a fact that this is not Barry anymore, and that basically comes at the moment where we get our cameo from M. Night Shamalamadingdong, which is pretty cool because I actually do like that. He's kind of I really do like
Yeah, he loves the cameos.
I love him. I love him too. I love seeing Quentin Tarantino pop up in Pulp Fiction and shit. Like I love seeing that.
I dig it.
But just him basically walking through the trash, they said anybody normal would have just walked around it. This is a deliberate act. It's Dennis knows that he's on camera and wants to be seen walking through the trash to prove that it couldn't possibly be Dennis, which I thought was really interesting. But like I kind of like I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Like I like the subplot of what goes on with Casey and her uncle and all of this, but it is it something? Did you expect it to go this way when you saw it the first time? Like, did you expect it to go the route that it inevitably takes, or is that something that kind of caught you off guard?
I think the way it's shown it kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it to be shown like that, but yeah, I definitely, because like I said, I know someone who's kind of gone through this stuff. I knew that, the way Casey was acting, like something's happened to her. Something's definitely happened to her in her past. And like, as soon as they bring up the first flashback, I was like, okay, so they're going to start showing us things now that show us how she got this way. And I can't imagine it being a good thing. You know what I mean? So I had a feeling, I had an idea, and did I know? Did I guess that it was sexual assault of a minor? No, but I definitely was leaning towards like something like that, and it's look, seeing something like this on film, it's never easy. It's never a good time. But I think it's to shape characters. I think it's necessary.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like it's uncomfortable, but that's kind of the the whole subject matter of what we're dealing with is uncomfortable. We're talking about people with different identities and different personalities and different abilities, and
how they became that way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Because Kevin's identity is kind of manifested from his childhood.
Right. Yeah. Like that, which is kind of interesting. Like I didn't even think about this, but I'm glad they didn't go into an aspect of like her also possibly having different personalities, because this is abuse that she experienced around the same age that like Kevin was. So like for all we know, it could like I kind of suspected it might go that route at some point, that she was going to have some kind of personality as well, but I'm glad that it didn't do that, because it's like, this is kind of weird. Like is it gonna lead up to this? Is that how she's going to survive this? And it is kind of how she survives this. Instead of having multiple personalities, we see later on in the movie that that she's a cutter, that she's that she's hurting herself. And that's kind of like her coping mechanism, versus this is his coping mechanism. And he respects that about her. That's what I like. He respects that. He's like, like you're one of us kind of thing, which is fucked up. But at the same time, like it's something like he said, the broken are the ones who kind of understand, which is really interesting. But yeah, moving on, this is where we get another scene with Patricia, one of my favorite scenes, actually, when she comes in and, she's just standing over Casey as she wakes up. She's like, we're going to have a proper meal, and I'm going to do your hair. And I think that's great, her combing the hair, and she jerks her hair back. She's like, sorry. But yeah, just this whole thing of making them the sandwiches and putting the flour in their hair. It's nice, but at the same time, it's like extremely. I'm trying to think of the right word. Like it's like extremely unsettling. Because here's this person.
Is the right word.
Right. You're being so nice, but at the same time, like you called me sacred food. Like what the fuck is that supposed to mean? But basically, yeah, she takes Casey and Marcia in there and starts making them these sandwiches, and I love that she does the uneven cut and just slams it down and scares the shit out of them, because of course they think it's about Marcia. She's talking about getting out of there. She's gesturing over to Casey, and it was funny as I was watching this with Lindsay's brother. And as we're watching it, he goes, God, fucking deck her ass with that chair. And literally she started picking up the chair. And he was like, oh, holy shit. He's like, that never happens. I thought that was fucking great.
Dude, this uneven cutting of the sandwich, is this Dennis coming through?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just, if that is somewhat of a trait of all the personalities, because basically the personalities are coping defense kind of mechanisms. And I mean, his mother was obviously a clean freak, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was something that multiple of the personalities had picked up.
Okay. Yep. I can buy that. Just quickly, did we go past the part where Dennis, I think it might have been to Dr. Fletcher, actually, the scene before, where he says that the base exists in a train yard because Kevin's dad left on a train.
We might have.
I think that's just important later.
Yeah, I was going to say it's either that conversation or the next one. I can't remember.
Somewhere around. They all tend to kind of blend together eventually.
Right, exactly. Which is really interesting because there's actually there's some people who, obviously this movie has so many heavy ties to Unbreakable. But there's speculation that it's actually the train that David Dunn is on in Unbreakable. That's why Kevin's dad. That's why he never came home. Which is really interesting because if you take into account what we know about Unbreakable, which sorry, we're going to ruin a movie that's 18 years old.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, we're gonna ruin a movie that's legally allowed to vote and join the military, and drink in certain countries. Not mine, but
and watch porn.
Yeah, right, and fucking rent a car and shit. But anyways, we Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mr. Glass, sets off this train to find a superhero, basically. And we've seen that he's done this several times with no success. And that's where he finds David Dunn. What's interesting is that in the same breath that he created a superhero, he's basically created a supervillain, because without his dad there to protect him, it's like, oh shit, like that's kind of insane. And that's really interesting. That's something that I've always kind of harped on with superhero movies, that we never see the hero and the villain kind of get their origin in the same breath. I think that's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't piece that together.
And also there actually is, just real quick while we're on it, in Unbreakable, there's, where David can kind of brush up against people and he sees what they're doing. He kind of has this like second sight kind of ability, I guess, if you want to call it that. But he brushes past a little boy and he sees that the little boy is being like severely abused by his mom. And it's heavily speculated that that's actually Kevin from this film. Because originally Kevin was supposed to be in Unbreakable. He thought it'd be cool to have a superhero and a supervillain. But he was like, honestly, with all the stuff going on between Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis, that he thought it was just going to be a little bit too much with all three of them. At that time, trying to set all of these characters up that fast. So I mean, I do think that was a great idea to put this off and wait to do it later. Maybe not 15 years later, 16 years later. But honestly, I mean, I can't say anything. I like this movie and I like Unbreakable, and it's one of the few times where making a sequel 15 years later actually fucking worked. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But either way, getting back to after that small tangent, getting back to these scenes with Patricia, Marcia picks up this chair, smashes her over the back with it. But just as soon as she turns around, I love that Casey shoves the table into Patricia, and she's just buying her time, basically buying Marcia time. And she's got that fucking knife. And the only thing that I kind of thought is, she's like, go to your room, and blah, blah, blah. And she actually does. She walks off and goes to her room. And as Patricia walks off, it's like, no, now's the time when you go and you find some weapon. So when she comes back, you just fucking cut her head off or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically Patricia finds Marcia, catches her. She gets the same treatment as Claire. They're going to lock her up in a room by herself. Why didn't you put all three of them in separate rooms to fucking begin with?
Oh, no.
Is what I'm asking myself.
Same fucking idea. Like, I don't know. I think Dennis wasn't thinking at that point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That kind of left me scratching my head. But I do like the scene of Dennis rushing in and telling her about the beast, and then the beast is coming for you, and he can't even get it out though. He's like, look at you got a crumb on your shirt, and it's like, oh my god, like sorry, I went a little Christopher Walken there. But
you got a crumb on your shirt.
That would be so funny if it were just multiple personalities, but they were all just like seriously quirky actors. It's like Jeff Goldblum and. Right, it's like Goldblum and Walken and like a bunch of quirky ass people.
Oh jeez.
But yeah, this is where we go back to this subplot about Casey and her uncle, and this is where things like something is unsettling right off the bat, because it's like, where's her dad? Like something
where's
is very.
Their dad? Like, there's no music. The sound of his back cracking is crazy.
Right. And it's actually kind of interesting, because if you look at the framing of it, she's not quite in the center of it. She's over to the left a little bit, and it leaves this empty space, and it kind of draws your attention to it. Like, why is there an empty space next to her? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, and I just took it as, we're showing kind of how vulnerable that she is, that her dad's not there and something is going on. I'm like, fuck. Because anything, like, I'm not going to lie, I'm not an incredibly like sensitive person. There's not a lot that would make me walk out of a room or turn something off, but anything to do with anything intestinal, seeing somebody get their intestines ripped out, kind of fucks with me. But also anything with any kind of like rape, I can't like, I don't know. I just like shut down. Like I don't get like, I don't get like mad about it, but like, Yeah, I couldn't imagine if I came up on that scene in real life. Like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I think I would literally go from like Bruce Banner to the Hulk in milliseconds. Like, I feel like I would just lose it. That's one of the only.
I'd rush at the guy, even though he's like a lot bigger than me. I just, out of instinct, I think I'd just fucking pound his face in.
Right. It's like, yeah, it just like, that's something that's like, I would rather take the risk of getting shot and stabbed than sit there and like let someone experience that. Like, there's something about that just enrages me, and rightfully so. I wish everyone felt that way.
Well, yeah, it's in a lot of circles, it's actually viewed, it's viewed worse than murder. Because you're not only are you like depriving someone of their freedom and liberty, you're also hurting them at the same time. And this is why in a lot of prisons and and things like that, other convicts often attack rapists.
Right, yeah, they're literally like the lowest of the low on the food chain, and rightfully so. But either way, we get the scene after that small scene of our subplot. We cut back over to Casey in bed, and I would have shit all over him. I would have shit all over him from fear, dude. I would have fucking like, I would have shit splatter sprayed all over his ass, dude. Like, there's no way. That would have scared the fuck out of me, man.
When he climbs over her, creepy.
But there is something almost kind of innocent about it, because like, you got to think, if I woke up and there was a 9-year-old kid in the bed with me hugging me like that, I honestly would almost feel more safe about it than it when an adult. It's like, well, you're not going to do anything. You don't even know what to do. Like you don't even know. You don't have no knowledge of like the female body and what you would even do. Like, you can tell that there's some kind of attraction.
Well, you wouldn't even know what masturbating is.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I didn't when I was 9.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, I got weird dick feelings right now. I don't know what they are. But yeah, this is where we get this scene of just him talking about, he says that, I can take the light anytime that I want. That's why Dennis and Patricia like me, which is fucked up, because they're basically using Hedwig. They don't give a fuck. Hedwig's not, I hate to say it, like, he's not, let's buy into this. Let's buy into the fact that he is a real 9-year-old child. And like, is he really good or bad? Like, not really. I just don't think he knows any better. Yeah. He's not really good nor bad. He's only aligned with them because he's made fun of, he's treated like shit, but now he's an important person to them. They make him feel useful, and that's the only reason why he's aligned with them, because he can take over any time that he wants and then pass the torch to them immediately.
But when you were 9, you know the difference between right and wrong.
That is true. Yeah, I knew that eating people and sacrificing them to the beast was not a good thing.
It's not great.
Right. But I think they, like I said, they manipulate him and just his insecurities about, the other personalities don't like him. They make fun of him and call him stupid. Even Patricia does, they basically just manipulate him for their own end. And I would be really curious to see what they do with Hedwig and Glass, because I feel like that could potentially be a downfall with the Beast, is the fact that the Beast needs Hedwig. All of them need Hedwig. And even though he's almost like Frankenstein in the Monster Squad, like, yeah, he's a bad guy, but at the same time, he could probably be swayed over pretty easily to like do some good and like fuck up the antagonist of the story. But either way, this is one of my favorite scenes coming up. Oh wait, no, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
But this scene. You might be pregnant now.
Oh yeah, and can I kiss you?
Yeah.
I love this whole scene with Hedwig and just him going on about the fact that he's never seen the Beast, which is really interesting. None of them have ever seen him, but there's just like almost like this like cult religious kind of like feel to the whole thing.
Like mentality. Yeah.
Right. That's what I think is so like super interesting. And we get a bit of a connection here between Hedwig and Casey as well. she's basically saying, she's like, no, I wouldn't, I don't lie. I wouldn't lie about anything, and, I'll tell you something and you tell me if I'm lying or not, and this is where we get a little bit of development from her, which is, again, it's kind of exposition, but whatever, it's done well. So I can kind of handle it. The fact that she's talking about, she gets in detention just so she doesn't have to be with everybody. I do like that because it's kind of like, it's almost like they're playing truth or dare as like little kids in a way, but we learn a little bit more about her, just a hair, which is kind of cool. I do like that, like I said, because it's actually done well. It's not like, it's not just the girls at the beginning be like, oh, she's so weird, she stays away from everybody, why is she so weird, she's weird. Like I fucking hate that at the beginning of it, just the way they try and like beat us over the head with that. I just can't stand that. But
see, but what I like about this is that I guess the only person that can like really understand her is a 9-year-old boy, but not really, right? Like, it's another sort of mentally sort of traumatized person.
Right, yeah, and he's basically the only one who not so much that they relate, but that she can kind of like I said, I think that's where the good in Hedwig comes from. Is he's not necessarily, he's kind of just like neutral, yes, he does know good from bad, but he's kind of neutral to that. But I love the look on his face, the way he looks at her, and he's like, okay, I'll show you something cool in my room. Like, I think that's so fucking cool, man. I love the way that he looks at her. But he says, Mr. Dennis has an appointment, so we'll have to wait after that. But also, we've got an appointment right now. We've got to go take a piss and fill up our drinks and take a bit of a break here. So we'll be back. You guys hang tight, and we'll come back with the second part of Split right after this.
Pardon me, sir. I think you have the wrong car.
You've emailed for an appointment 2 days in a row.
Tell me what's going on.
I've never seen a case like this before. 23 identities live in Kevin's body. Did something happen?
There's a flower on the pillows, a flower in the bathroom. Like, we're important. Who is that?
Maybe she can help us.
We're here! We're in here!
Don't worry. He knows what you're here for. He's not allowed to touch you. He knows that. My name's Hedwig. I have red socks.
How old are you?
9.
The human brain is the most complex object in the universe.
The only way we're getting out of here is if one of them decides to let us out.
Aren't you the clever one?
Hedwig, could you help us?
Okay. I have a window in my room.
Maybe you could show us.
Oh, that's here. Now it's closed. Now it's open. Did you think it was a real window? So you could leave?
An individual with multiple personalities can change their body chemistry with their thoughts.
Someone's coming for you.
What will happen when he unlocks the potential of his brain?
There is no limit to what he can become.
Tonight is a sacred night. You will be in the presence of something greater. The world will understand now. The beast is real. He's done awful things to people, and he'll do awful things to you.
Okay, guys, welcome back. We are freshly refreshed and have our drinks, and our bladders are empty, and we're ready to roll. But yeah, basically where we've left off here is this meeting between quote unquote Barry and Dr. Fletcher. This is where she's kind of starting to she's like I said, she's playing this like I know that he knows that we know kind of thing. And she's kind of playing on the fact that this is Dennis. She brings up a time at his job when 2 girls ran up and put Kevin's hands, I guess, on their breast. And this is obviously, I think, something to draw. Yeah, I think this is something to really draw Dennis out because he's like, I mean, obviously is infatuated with young girls, like she said earlier, but also at the same time. Oh, go ahead.
This is one of my favorite scenes of McAvoy. Kind of like seeing him squirm as Dennis pretending to be Barry while Dr. Fletcher's telling him this story. Like, and then immediately when Dennis comes out, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I think it's great because you kind of just see this the de-evolution of him. Like you can see the mask kind of start to start to slip off. And this is where we get a whole other shit ton about exposition about the beast, the fact that his skin is thick like the height of a rhinoceros, and that he can
rough.
Yeah, that he can jump over walls and do this and do that. But I mean, his doctor. I mean, she's obviously. I mean, she's smart though. She knows exactly who this is and who she's talking to. And she's kind of empowering him. You're strong. You're disciplined. And you are not one to be taken advantage of. I can see why. You took over. You were protecting him. You can trust me. She said, and this is where we learn, she's like, I do have the ability to use Kevin's name and pull him forward and bring him to the light to basically kind of do a clean reset. But to do that, apparently, is utter chaos for these personalities, which is something that she does not want to do for the fact that it's going to wind up kind of hurting all of them. But, she placed Dennis's strengths. She knows that he's this meticulous and strong person. And just as she's talking to him, we don't really get a lot of shots of her. We get a lot of shots of McAvoy and just see his face as she's saying, I accept you. You're not evil, blah, blah, blah. You were necessary. And we see his face just start to get a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more comfortable. And eventually that eyebrow kind of goes up and he sits up straight. And it's like, fuck. Like, there he is. There's Dennis. Like, you can just tell.
Good, man. McAvoy is perfection.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. This is, they're talking about, they keep calling us the whore. They keep calling us the horde. I almost said the whore.
The fucking slut.
Right. They keep calling us the horde. We're not perfect, but we don't admit to be ridiculed. We're all struggling, blah, blah, blah. And she actually gets kind of teary-eyed at this, I do like that Fletcher's kind of emotional about this, and she shakes his hand. She's like, I'm pleased to meet you. And I think that, there is a part of Dennis that she does like, that he is trying to protect Kevin. And that she's trying to, they're both in their own weird way trying to look out and do the best for Kevin, what they think is the best. He thinks the best is the beast to release him. And she's trying to obviously, she doesn't believe in any of that, but she's trying to kind of keep the peace among the personalities, which is also what's best for Kevin. So they're both kind of on the same side, but also not at the same time. But yes, again, she gets another email in the middle of the night about, who in the world, emailed her, and trying to figure out exactly what's going on. But this is where, they start talking about his beliefs and the story of the beast, which is all, it is super interesting, but it's just so, it's just way too strong. It just comes on. And this is where she says, that he resides in a train yard because that's where Kevin's dad left him.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I fucked that up.
No, because again, these scenes, there's so many of them that it's kind of hard to, unless you're like sitting there watching it beat for beat, it's kind of hard to, keep up and know exactly which scenes are which. But this, I like this whole scene between them just because they do actually go on about the beast a little bit, and they're kind of confronting like the elephant in the room and talking about, finally she's able to figure out that it's Dennis, and they have a good, like, I like it. There is like, even though they are somewhat at odds with each other, there's like a mutual respect. I do like that. He respects what she's doing. She respects what he's doing. I do like that. I do get that sense of like a mutual respect between the two of them, which I really dig.
What do you think about the beast? What like the direction of the movie at this point, where it's headed? What do you think about it?
I think it's cool. I think the payoff is good for the setup. The fact that we've been kind of drip fed stuff about this. We haven't really been told exactly what he is. I mean, we have in so many words and so many ways. But I actually like it. I do. I like what the Beast can be and how it can be set up, but it is the setup of it is just a little. They kind of beat you over the head with it. But I do like, I don't know, because I'm torn. How do you describe the Beast? And how she does it is good. She is kind of like, she's like, it's a fantasy, the fact that he can crawl on walls and take these gunshot wounds and stuff. Yes, it is like super exposition-y, but at the same time, it's almost like necessary because we're describing something that we haven't seen. And we can't show him yet. We just can't, it's impossible. We haven't gotten to that point in the movie yet. But I don't mind it. I like the way they set it up as this kind of like almost larger than life character. And we don't really know. They don't know. They haven't seen him. It's really just it's almost like they're Jesus in a way. Like they're kind of building him up and making like a ritual sacrifice or whatever.
Like their savior kind of thing. I get it.
Right, exactly. So I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cool. What do you think of it?
Well, I'm on record as saying I don't like the direction they took. I wish the movie kind of like was a bit more grounded, a bit more realistic, a bit more of a hostage sort of kidnap scenario where this guy with like 23 different personalities just kind of holds his kids, these girls for ransom or something. I don't know. I would have liked to see a bit more of that. But I also, at the same time, I like seeing Kevin's different personalities and them kind of wrestling with each other and things like that. So if we are doing this Beast thing where it all kind of like leads to this one sort of identity that has yet to sort of manifest itself, I think it's okay. I appreciate the setup a bit more than the payoff. Not the fact that there's so much setup, but more the fact that it's for me it's one of those Jaws things, right? Like you hear more about the shark than you actually see it. If that makes sense. I like that a bit more than what we get at the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see your point there because it's kind of they tell us more about the Beast than we actually see it. But when we do see it, I wish they'd have pulled back just a little bit, so we can understand what he's capable of. But at the same time, we see a lot of stuff. We see the shotgun blast and the knife and climbing up the walls. And
yeah, not a fan of him climbing up the walls. Even though she says, "Oh, this guy was able to find like the nubs." The little nubs in the walls and shit like that. I was like, yeah, I'm not buying it. Buying it.
This is actually another one of my favorite scenes of the movie where we move to oh God, sorry, I've forgotten our main character's name.
Hedwig. Casey.
Yeah, sorry, I almost said Katie, but yeah, this is Casey and Hedwig, where he comes in and
this
dances.
Is a standout scene.
Oh, dude, just and it's great because he actually is kind of like, man, he's dancing his ass off, like he's actually kind of like captivating.
This is James McAvoy fucking killing it, man. I don't know how he didn't get like nominated or something for this role.
Right, because it's also like it's captivating, but at the same time it's terrifying. The way he that kind of like like head jolt as he's coming towards the camera, and the ways they cut back behind him as he's doing that kind of like shimmy shake like jive kind of thing.
How funny is it that the mouse stops spinning on the wheel as soon as he turns the music off?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? But yeah, this is basically, Hedwig has said that there's a window in his room, and that's the whole reason that she's there, is trying to figure out this another means of escape.
Love this moment.
Yeah, I love that he's like, is that the only reason you wanted to see my room? So you could escape, etc.? etc.
Yeah, he does that a couple times, etc.
Yeah, he's absolutely great, but she has a great moment where she starts to freak out. No, I'm sorry, let's stay here and look at your room. I'm sorry, I don't want to leave. Blah blah blah. She's trying to backpedal so much, but what I love is that in that backpedaling, I love and this is something that Edgar Wright is really great at. Things coming into frame, out of nowhere, a hand shoving something in, the way he shoves that radio out. It's like the golden ticket. It's like, oh shit!
Yeah,
it
might as well have a choral kind of like music in the background, like oh.
Right, yeah, and and the way she downplays it is really great. She's like, wow, that's really cool, and she's just kind of downplaying it a little bit. And he says that this is from Mr. Dennis's job. He doesn't even know that I've stole it yet.
So let me talk about this for a little bit, because this is the part of the movie that infuriated the hell out of me. This fucking security guard, probably up top somewhere. Like, seriously? Seriously, how many times do you need to be told, or even like you're that terrible at reading the voice patterns in someone's voice to know that they're being legitimate about this? Like, this is not a joke.
Right, yeah, like how would somebody have one of your radios and like tuning into your frequency and figuring that out? Like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know, even if it's just a joke, like, I mean, treat it seriously. And if it's a joke, well, whatever, you got one pulled over on you. But if you're wrong...
But that's another thing. Like, I mean, if there is a police search out there, like, how, like... You know what I mean? Like, if there's a police search out there, the police are going to make it known that there is a person, like, there are these 3 girls out there who are in trouble, who have been kidnapped, and probably they've released their names. She says her names multiple times here, and the security guard's like, whoa, stop fucking around. Like, it annoys me. It annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, because he's just so trivial. He's like, okay, well, I think it's like Betsy or somebody, whoever the person is on the radio that he thinks it is. He's like, tell him that I still got his orange headphones and blah blah blah, and just kind of playing it off. But what I love is that at the end of the movie, when she's released, we see that guard, and he's got orange headphones on. He's like, oh fuck, and he looks at her and points. He's like, oh shit. But this is great. This is a great scene. She starts radioing for him, and Hedwig freaks out and charges her with the bat. I was like, "Oh shit, dude!"
Yeah.
Like I was not expecting that, which kind of kills my theory about Hedwig just being neutral, because he's just like fucking gonna crush her skull in with a bat.
See, but he's doing it more for himself. He's doing it more so he doesn't get hurt by Patricia or Dennis. But that being said, this is also one of my favorite moments of McAvoy. Dennis in the dark just turning around and like approaching her. Oh my god, it's so scary, man.
Yeah, and switching into Patricia just like it's nothing.
Sorry, yeah, I said Dennis, but it's actually Patricia. Sorry.
Well, God, there's just so many, so many of them. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Yeah. But I love this because as she's walking down the hallway, just that kind of, in the sun, we will find our passion. In the sun, we will find our purpose. And I love what she says. I saw that on a card, a funeral card in the supermarket, and I thought it was lovely. Which I love that accent. It's so crisp and clean and
British.
British. But yeah, this is, she kind of pops off, and as she disappears, that's where we get Dennis coming back in. But right in that moment, it's kind of hard for me to see. What is it that Casey grabs off the ground? Is it a key, or is it like a paperclip, or what is it that she uses to escape later on? I can't exactly tell what it is.
I don't know.
Dude, it's very hard for me to make it out. Like, not just like watching it like on my phone and stuff, but at the same time, like watching it earlier, it was kind of hard for me to figure out exactly what it was that she picked up. I'm not sure.
I'm going through it and trying to figure it out, but I'm not seeing it.
It's either way. She grabs something. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I think it is a key, or it's some kind of like paper clip. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this is where we get kind of Dennis coming back in, which is like, if you had to be locked in a room with one of these, which would you rather be locked in with, Patricia or Dennis?
Probably Patricia, only because she thinks she's a woman, and I could probably overpower her.
Oh yeah, sexist.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, if we're using the logic of the movie, and you know the psychology affects the human body, like, then I'm gonna say that, you know, because she's a woman, then I can overpower her and probably get the hell out.
Well, especially compared to Dennis, you know, we've seen Dennis's physical strength.
Yeah.
You know, just him shoving through that door and stuff. That's really great. But this is where he just kind of talks about the beast's time is at hand. He says the time for humanity is almost over.
Yeah, I tune out.
You know, yeah, really? See, I didn't mind this because it's almost like cult-ish kind of stuff. I didn't mind that because it's not so much telling us what the beast can do, but it's telling us what the beast kind of believes, and it's very quick. It's only a couple of lines. It's not like
But I think it's just because I'm not on board with the beast. I think that's why I kind of tune out a little bit.
See, I don't mind it so much. I do like the Beast. I think if they toned down just a little bit of it, if he were not, he's kind of like an MMORPG character who's just way overpowered. He's just OP to the max. Like, he's super fast, he's super strong, he's super durable. You know, even Unbreakable's main character, I mean, yeah, the guy's kind of indestructible and he is strong, but he has some powers, like he's got that second sight kind of thing. But like, those are it's kind of like he has one big thing and then a couple of small things, you know, whereas like the Beast is just like, I mean, he's like Superman. I mean, he's got so many powers. That's the only thing that I don't like about him. I think if they had made him he's a beast. He's super fast. He's super quick. He devours people. You know, he is resilient, you know, but if you shot him with a shotgun, yeah, it would fucking kill him. I wouldn't mind seeing his, you know, the whole wall crawling thing is ridiculous. But I do buy into it strictly because, like, I've already made that little leap that because this character believes whatever it is that they believe, that they can do some of these things. But the wall crawling thing is the one spot where I do get a little lost, because I'm like, no, I mean, I can understand like making yourself faster or something like that, but and even maybe being more durable, or maybe your pain tolerance being like higher, so things don't affect you as much. But being able to like literally defy gravity and crawl on the walls, but it is a fucking great image. It is really a great image.
But that's it.
But yeah, But yeah, like this is, and after that we basically get some more of the subplot with Casey, and this is where
this is the most shocking sort of instance, right? This is where it's kind of revealed to us that this is what's going on, and it's not the thing that gets me is the dialogue here. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's pretty heavy. And like we already know what's happening, kind of thing. But it's more like let's play animals again.
Right.
And this is our game. Like, you know, this is not the first time that this has happened, and it's ongoing.
Yeah, and just I think and not to keep ragging like this whole scene on, but the one where, you know, he's like, you know, I'll tell your dad that you're not playing nice. It's like, oh, fuck you, dude. Like that was the one part that really wanted to make me just kick his fucking teeth through his asshole. Like just manipulating like in that way. I was like, oh, what a fucking piece of shit, man. That was the one thing that really got me in the scene. I was like, oh God, that is so fucking disgusting, man. I mean, the whole act, but just the using like that child, like, oh, I don't want to be in trouble, like kind of thing. It's like, oh fuck, that's fucking, it's just goddamn devious, man.
It's manipulation, and it's the worst. But I think the way the movie kind of presented it was kind of clever. You know, it's not ridiculously over the top, but it was a clever way to do it. What did you think about young Casey pointing the gun at the uncle?
I really was hoping in the movie that she was going to blow his brains out the first time that I saw it. I was like, come on. Like, even if it's an accident, even if he, like, grabs the shotgun from her and causes her to, like, hit the trigger, I was like, dude, I would have loved that. But unfortunately, you know, that's kind of like, what is he saying? He's like, what does Red say in Shawshank? He's like, I'd like to tell you that Andy fought the good fight. You know, it's like, I would love it if that's the way that things were, but that's just not, I mean, ultimately for a story. But
I do like that it kind of shows that Casey she's 100% aware of what's happening, and she's 100% not loving, not liking it, right? Like, she's not, she's very remorseful and regretful about every time this happens.
Right, yeah. And this, not in the same context at all, but this actually did remind me of Unbreakable, where Bruce Willis' son brings the gun out and points it at him.
Me too.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, just sprinting past that, sprinting past that scene.
I'm not going back to the scene. I'm going back to fucking that scene in Unbreakable. Fucking stupid scene. Like, you need to shoot a bullet into your father to prove that he's superhuman. Just, like, why don't you just cut him or something? I don't know.
Right,
Sorry.
like you've seen him, like, lift all of these weights. Like, what's not to believe at this point?
I can't with that. Yeah, I don't know.
The only thing that it does remind me of in Unbreakable was the actor that played Superman on a television show in the 50s, George Reeves. He was doing a promotional stunt as Superman and showed up to this kid's party or something like that, and the kid pulled a loaded gun on him. And because he was Superman, and he almost shot George Reeves because he was like, "Oh, you're Superman. I can just come up and shoot you, and you'll live." And he was able to talk the kid away from the gun. And I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that's kind of what that reminded me of. It was just terrifying. But either way, this is where, you know, we get the scene of all the emails coming in to Dr. Fletcher, that there's obviously something very, very wrong. Still doesn't call anybody, by the way. Still thinks that,
hey, let me go over there by myself without any backup or protection and try and figure this out.
Right. And like, dude, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, there's no way. Like, I mean, I get it. You're a mental health professional. I understand all that. And like, you do need to be there because, I mean, you don't want cops just rushing in on this guy because they're not going to understand his specific case history. But at the same time, like, I mean, like, this whole thing leads up to, 3 people, including herself, being murdered, and 2 of them, but cannibalism. It's like, holy fuck! Like, had you just gotten the police involved, which, I mean, you can tell right away when the TV reports, like when the TV reports that, you know, that these kids are missing, she kind of lingers on it for a second, like, something's not right here. Like, you can tell that she kind of suspects.
Yeah.
But either way, this is when she finally shows up to what we find out later is actually the Philadelphia Zoo, which is where really kind of it's kind of like Stephen King with Maine. M. Night Shyamalan kind of sets a lot of stuff in Philadelphia. I believe that's his hometown.
That's where it's from. Yeah.
Poor man. No, I'm just kidding.
I've only been there for one day, and I dug it. It was kind of boring, but whatever.
Oh, that's great. I've actually never been there. But yeah, this is where she sits down with Dennis, and she's talking with him and convinces him to let him in. And I like the scene a lot. You know, where he starts opening up about I had to protect him. You know, Kevin's mother had devious ways of punishing a 3-year-old, which is like I can only imagine like what she did to this kid to provoke 24 different like personalities, like, and that's one thing. Kevin hasn't been out since like September 18th, 2014. It's like 2 or 3 years, like the real person hasn't you know come out yet. It's like, holy shit, like what the fuck did this lady do to this kid? But it's like I don't know. That's something that I didn't really. I'm glad they didn't give us like a full set of details on, because we see just like little snippets of it where he's hiding under the bathtub and she's saying, you know, Kevin Wendell Crumb, you know, and blah blah blah. I was like, oh my god, like that's just terrifying. Like what the fuck did this lady do to this kid? But I love the scene, where he's kind of flipping her philosophy on herself. It talks about that there's a woman in Germany that you wrote about 10 years ago who was blind, but 2 of her DID personalities could actually see. And she's like, what is this? What does this have to do with anything? Like, what are you talking about? And he's basically saying, like, why can't that be possible? Like, if we believe in another personality, why can't that be possible? And it's we can agree to disagree. I actually don't mind the Beast. I think it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's only because I can buy it in that same sense of like the kids from Stephen King's It can defeat Pennywise because they believe in him. Therefore, they can believe in, they believe in silver bullets. They believe in whatever it is that they use to attack him. That's the one thing that I do like, the fact that they have a belief in him. They do believe in him, and they think that he can do all of these things. I do think that's cool, that it's the fact that their willpower collectively is so strong that they can almost like will another personality into existence. I'm like, that's actually kind of cool, just because I've made that leap already. Like, I know you're still kind of like pissing your pants over there, like, man. No, I'm just kidding. But like,
no, just because. I can't buy it. I can't buy it. I just can't buy. I can't. I've said it plenty of times. I can't buy that your mental state can affect the way your body reacts to things, or what you can do with your body. Like, I can't. Yeah.
I can in certain things. If we're talking about people running across hot coals or like pain tolerance, but not, literally like the physiology of your body, like changing like, that.
I had one of the things that I thought of was the case of Annalise Michel, who's the chick that The Exorcist was based on. The German girl, how basically a demon had possessed her and things like that, and her body started doing really crazy weird things. So like in that way, I don't, because that was affecting, the demon was affecting her mental state. Mm-hmm. Like she started floating and things like that. I guess in that way, a supernatural sort of like element is, it's there, but it kind of defies all logic in that way.
Right. Yeah. I see that point for sure. I love that as the scene goes on, he's saying, all the things that you were saying, the Beast is saying as well. Like I said, they're kind of almost on the same side, but they're also not at the same time. Like, she's aware of the potential that these people have, but they're wanting to use it in a totally, absolutely different way. But she's very for all the like. I mean, she didn't write the script. We can talk about how much we don't like her character, but ultimately she didn't write the script, and she's playing a role that was provided provided for her.
M. Night wrote the script. Fuck you, M. Night.
Yeah, right. But this whole thing where she's just basically kind of like buying time. She's just falsely buying into their bullshit. I think this is so interesting, and I would love to write all this down, and we should have a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to go now.
Right, yeah, and that's so abrupt. I'm gonna go now, and she's just so abrupt about it. But this is kind of, what this movie kind of, I can't believe I just now got this and put it together. Misery, Stephen King's Misery, like, dude, the whole scenes of somebody being captured and outside sources trying to get to you, and every single time you trying to escape. Like, if I were writing this movie, I definitely would have sat down and watched Misery a couple times and be like, okay, how do I do something like this?
A mentally unstable person is your captor.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And someone that can physically overpower the people like around them, like Annie Wilkes can absolutely overpower Paul Sheldon because his fucking legs are broken and arms, like ribs and shit, are broken. But basically, Dr. Fletcher comes in and sees Claire.
We get it. You like Stephen King.
No, we get it. You would suck his big main dick.
His big main dick.
But yeah, this is where Dr. Fletcher comes in and sees Claire in there, and her worst fears are confirmed, which I again, if you had any kind of inkling or speculation that this might be going on, which you obviously did because you said, I have to go to the bathroom, and you actually went around snooping, you knew something was up. Like I'm not saying you're to blame here, but you are kind of the only buffer between this and just loose cannon and the rest of the world. Like, you are somewhat responsible for the events and like what's happened. Especially just as things have gotten like so much worse and so much worse. But yeah, I what cracks me up is that, he sprays Dr. Fletcher and he drugs her and knocks her out and drags her off. But the girls are like, we need to get out of these rooms. Start looking around your rooms for anything. I'm like, that wasn't the first thing you did.
Start looking around now.
Right, yeah, you've been in this room for like at least 2 days. Like, why the fuck are you just now looking around? Oh, hey, here's a coat hanger I found 15 seconds into my search that will ultimately be the thing that releases me. I was like, holy shit.
It's movie bullshit. It's movie bullshit, yeah.
I'm like, holy fuck, man. But this is great because as they're plotting their escape, we've also got Dennis going to the train yard, and I love these scenes of it fading to black, and it's almost like it cuts to him, and it's like the other personality is waking up. And it cuts to Patricia waking up, and she even says, thank you, Dennis, and like, oh, thank you for, like sharing this with me and blah, blah, blah. And I like, the kind of connections, obviously, to Unbreakable with the whole train yard and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. I don't understand the whole laying the flowers down and then stepping onto the train. Like,
I guess it's like a tribute kind of thing. Like if they kind of like see the Beast as like their god or their savior, then it's kind of like their way of welcoming him to the world, I think.
It's like symbolic.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was flowers for Kevin's dad, if it was like, if they were, because there's obviously some connection between the fact that the Beast comes from a train yard and Kevin's dad disappeared, basically getting on a train and he was gone. I don't know if it's something that basically, well, okay, hear me out on this. So, no, I won't hear any of it. And you just like hang up. What would be so funny sometimes, I think, is if I was in the middle of talking and you just hung up, I would never fucking know. Like, I really wouldn't fucking know. But either way, basically, Kevin's father, abandoned him or whatever happened, he dies or disappears. That may have been what actually caused Kevin's mom to start abusing him, which is just a theory that I had. Maybe that was the thing. Maybe she was abusive beforehand. Either way, had there been another parent there, male, female, a sibling, whatever, they would have, but it was just Kevin. And Kevin, obviously came up with these personalities to defend himself, to keep him from just absolutely going insane. I guess it's kind of almost like a ritual thing for them to set the flowers down and say, this is where, maybe this is where Kevin's dad disappeared and he should have protected us. But now we go back to the same spot and this is where our new protector is born. That's the only thing I can think of, is that it was kind of like, and maybe I'm just kind of like grasping at straws here, but I thought it was kind of interesting because it's like, why do they go back to the train yard? Because there's got to be some type of connection there for the fact that, this obviously holds something for Kevin, because they talk about his dad a couple of times. So I guess he does remember him and does care about him and thinks about him and wants to know what happened. But I guess from that ultimate loss comes like an ultimate birth of this new thing that like maybe 25 years ago, you were let down and you were disappointed and that led to your abuse. But out of the ashes, rises the phoenix. Like, this is where you're reborn. That's the only thing that I can think of. And that might be getting like a little too like meta and like philosophical, but I kind of like that. That's just my interpretation of it. That's just my opinion. But I thought that was kind of cool.
Fuck this movie.
Fuck this piece of shit. Fuck it. Let's cover Fast and the Furious.
Let's watch Transformers.
I'm telling you right now, I'll probably never cover a Fast and the Furious movie. I'm sorry. I don't think I can fucking do it.
I can guarantee you, man, Matt at some point will.
Oh God, leave me the fuck out of it.
Hot garbage.
Yeah, hot shit. But I love these scenes, especially with, Casey is eventually able to escape her room by using that pick or that key. Maybe it was a key. Maybe I can't remember exactly what it was.
Not important.
Yeah, whatever the fuck this thing was. But she's able to unlock a room. And go out and use the computer, which I don't know why you're not trying to immediately contact some type of emergency services over the internet.
Scream.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But this is where we start seeing like all the other personalities. One's a diabetic and they have to have insulin. We have one that's like a history buff, and it's just going on about how we should stand up against the horde because we are the majority and they aren't. But I love as she's watching the video of Barry, which Barry's one of my favorite personalities too. I love that we kind of like, I know that we see Barry. Yeah, very eccentric and very flamboyant. But what I'm assuming is that we actually never see Barry, that it's Dennis the entire time.
Yep, I thought that too.
Okay, cool. But it sucks because I actually really like Barry as a personality. He seems obviously the one that's most controlled, the one that's the one that has his head on his shoulders the most. But yeah, and this is also where we get our kind of birth of the beast, which is the taking off the shirt, and it's like I was like, dude, is he about to like werewolf out? Like, what the fuck is about to happen? And it's
but
kind
he
of
like immediately climbs on top of the train, and like right there, I was just like, okay, we're about to see some fuckery, and like. Dude, some of these shots are really cool, but like especially with the music, the background music that they have, the shot, it's like a top-down shot of like of the beast running across this street, and there's like a light pole, like the shadow of a light pole in the middle of the street. It's fucking cool, man. I fucking love like when he takes off from the train and we're in the train and we're pulling up to the emergency exit and we see how fast he's moving. We're like, oh shit. But dude, especially like you said, that shot with him in the street, it's like, dude, this guy is ghosting, man. Like he is so fucking fast. See, but like it's things like that, man. It's how quick he's moving and things like that. Like your body is not capable of moving that fast.
I don't know. No, I'm just no. I will say there are some people that like. I mean, I know there are like I think Michael Johnson in the early 90s. I think he was one of the world's fastest men. But I mean, he ran I think somewhere around like 20 miles an hour or something like that. Like ridiculously fast.
No, but I mean, like I'm falling back into it again. The willpower, like forcing your body to move that fast. I don't know.
God, it's a fucking movie, Zoheb. No, I'm just kidding.
Just get on fucking board, Zoheb.
This is. I was gonna say this is one of the few times where we just like totally have to agree to disagree because it's like this is what happens when an immovable object hits an unstoppable force.
Yes, you just quoted my favorite villain. But I also think there's one, maybe two too many shots of like the coat hanger hitting the lock. I was like, we're still doing this?
Part of me is like, how do you know you're on the fucking lock? Like, how do you know you're not on the door handle and you're just like jerking the door handle around?
Yeah. I do like the shot of the beast confronting Dr. Fletcher.
I do love that as she's writing his name down on the paper and he just slides in behind her. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's scary.
And I do like the way he looks with all like almost like the veins kind of like scaly kind of look. Like let's just make the jump and say that this is all possible and blah blah blah. Like I do like the way he breathes and he's just like holy fuck, like it's like a frog like as he's breathing like just like blowing himself up really big. I was like holy shit. But the way he just crushes this poor woman, I was like fuck man, like that's because she is a very likable character. She is very warm and understanding of things. You can tell she's open-minded, but just like holy fuck, her stabbing with the knife and the knife blade breaking off and just the crunch of her like
fuck off.
dude, like this is like hit like this guy, the Beast or whatever you want to call him, grabbing someone like you or someone like me. You know, I can only imagine the damage that they do. But to like an elderly woman, like God damn, dude, like I can only imagine how. Yeah, like I've done this to a couple of people. Actually, like I've gotten into some physical altercations before, and this is just what I like. If I have to do it, just literally pick someone up and just squeeze them as hard as you can. And I've made people just like, oh God, like I've made people like scream, like moan from having to do that, which is like
yeah.
But and it's not something fun to have to do, but like that's just me. Like with fighting, I'm not going to sit there and throw blows with you, dude. I'm like 6'4" and 300 pounds. Like I'm just going to pick you up and hold you. Like I'm not going to try to like. This isn't Rocky. This isn't Street Fighter. I'm not going to try to sit here and throw jabs at you and shit. Like I just don't want to. It's like in fighting, I don't want to throw a punch and like get hit, but like I don't want to have to hit you. Like I don't want to get hit either. Like I'm just disarming you. I'm not hurting you. You're not hurting me. I'm just disarming it. And I think that's like picking someone up and doing that. It does make you feel like a badass because I've done that. I've actually. 30-second story. We had a guy shoplifting beer in our grocery store I worked in, and a good friend of the show, Danny Hartley. We were both working together at this grocery store, and he calls me up to the front, and he just said, you mind giving me a hand, kind of confronting this guy, and it got physical. He shoved Danny, which fucking pissed me off. Danny and I have been best friends for like 15 something years at this point. I was in his wedding. I know him and his wife very well, and it fucking pissed me off, man. And I just grabbed this dude who was probably about 50, and I just picked him up, and I felt him start reaching around in his pockets, and I was like, okay, he's getting a knife, and I just squeezed him as hard as I could. And I've never heard a grown man just like bellow like that. Like he was like, oh, it was so fucking awesome and also to kind of get that revenge back, be like, you fucking shoved my friend, you fucking asshole.
Come here, cunt.
Yeah, right. Anyways, but this is he pulls what I did to this old man. He does a Dr. Fletcher and just crushes this bitch. But this is also where I mean, God, just the scenes of him walking, or I'm sorry, of Casey, walking down once she's escaped. And one thing that I love is, I mean, and I don't want to go by it, her getting the keys, seeing Barry's last like voice or his last like video log, and seeing that the keys are under his hat. Like, oh my God, they were there the whole fucking time, man. Like
one of those things.
Yeah, I love that reveal. I really do love that. But she escapes and she finds Marcia on the floor, like fucking half eaten. I was like, oh God.
That was fucked.
Yeah, and then basically finding the Beast in the middle of eating Claire. It's like, holy shit.
Getting eaten out.
Yeah, right. If only.
Okay, so this prompted probably the weirdest Google search on my phone ever.
Oh God!
I typed in diseases from cannibalism. Okay, because like I was at this point, I was like, what does cannibalism do for the human body? Because I know you can get diseases. That's what mad cow diseases are. Kuru disease. That's apparently the most famous. It's apparently the people in Papua New Guinea had it, and it's basically kind of like mad cow disease for humans. Believed to be a variant of the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. So again, this base guy, you're dead.
Right. Your intestinal tract can't handle it.
Yeah, if your internal organs fail, like there is. No matter what kind of psychological defect that you have, you're fucked.
Yeah,
and that's later as well. Like when you get shotgun shells pounded into your organs, you're fucked.
Agree to disagree. No, I'm just kidding.
You fucker.
You fucker. But yeah, I love this. Casey locks the beast in the room, and just seeing the lock get bent like that, like holy fuck, like goddamn, that's a great image of just seeing like the door swell, like oh fuck, man. But basically, we see her find the piece of paper, to say his name, Kenneth Wendell Crumb, and just the shot of him. It is great imagery of him just like crawling around. It's like holy fuck, but she does it. She shouts the name out, and immediately we see this have this very kind of volatile reaction out of him. And for the first time, we actually see Kenneth Wendell Crumb finally. And he's asking her, like, what's going on? Like, who are you? Like, and he's fucking literally still got blood on his mouth from eating someone. He sees
he was on a bus.
Yeah, right. He was like, I was on a bus. Like, I don't remember what happened. He sees Dr. Fletcher dead and asks what happened, and, she says that you did this. And he just straight up tells her, he's like, there's a shotgun in there. There's ammo in my locker. I want you to kill me. And it's like, holy fuck, man. Like this actually,
sad,
yeah, this actually got to me a little bit because it's kind of like, it's kind of like the old school story of like the Wolfman,
like
somebody
who's I was literally about to say,
who's like unwittingly doing these things and can't really help it. But I love as he's saying kill us, there's Jade who slips out. He's like, no, don't do that. He can't handle reality. I'm Jade, and this is McAvoy at his top right here.
So good.
This is absolutely the best. Him shifting between the kind of history professor, Jade, then he slips off into finally Patricia, and she tries to keep saying his name, but he's like, he's asleep now. You can say his name all you want. And that's one thing that I thought was really interesting is that she basically, she doesn't say, oh no, you can't reach him. She's like, no, try it all that you want. Like do everything that you think that you can do, and it's still not going to be good enough. Like, I like that. I like when they, instead of just saying like, nah, I can't hear you. Like, it's kind of like, no, go ahead. They're not going to hear you. Like, waste your time. Like that to me is terrifying because it's like, I'm giving you the option to try that thing that you think will work. And I guarantee you it's not. It's like, fuck. But I love that. Also, one little detail that we skipped by was Dr. Fletcher, as she goes to the bathroom, she kind of stuffs that handkerchief in the lock, which is, again, you that means that something is up. Like, get the fuck out of there and call the cops. Like Jesus. But either way, that does end up totally benefiting Casey as Casey's able to get out of the room because the final shift is to Patricia, and Patricia shifts onto the Beast, and then we're back on again. The Beast is just right on her heels, but she gets the shotgun. She stops by his locker. She gets the ammo for it.
We get this kind of like cat and mouse chase, right?
Right, yeah, and him fucking eating on her leg. I was like, holy shit, man. Like, that's fucking brutal. But one thing that I do like is, and a lot of the color scheme of things that M. Night Shyamalan does, there is a lot of like purple used, purple in Unbreakable for Mr. Glass, green for David Dunn. It's actually slowly revealed here with Casey's character because she has so many layers on that by the time it gets down to her last like layer, it's actually green. It's actually like a green tank top. It's also her. I can't remember her. I can't exactly remember her character's last name. I'm going to look it up really quick.
Okay, I've got it. Casey, it's another C. It's like a superhero's name.
Casey Cook.
Yeah. So you know how superhero names are both, C and C or Peter Parker.
Wally West or right, and that's the same thing with David Dunn and Unbreakable. That's not done on an accident, which I thought was really cool. But basically, she gets the shotgun, pulls it around, and the Beast is just fucking gone. But then we also get these cuts back to our subplot of Casey's dad dying, and we find out that it's just hereditary. That her father had a heart attack, and that her grandfather also had a heart attack, and that her uncle is going to be quote unquote taking care of her. You're going to come live with me.
I vomit.
Oh, dude, mouth vomit. Like, ugh. Like, I mean, definitely don't eat anything while you're trying to watch this fucking movie. Because just the whole thing of him, now you're not going to give me any trouble, are you? It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, again, just that manipulation of like a child's conscience. It's like, what the fuck, man? But,
dude, the shots of the beast on the ceiling, like knocking out the light bulbs, while they look fucking awesome, again, it's like the wall crawling thing.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say I fucking love this shot, dude.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful
because it's so scary, of seeing something just slowly marching its way towards you. And I love his dialogue. Only through pain can you receive your greatness or your strength. And just his voice, man, he sounds almost like a Southern preacher. Like it's crazy because it does not. Out of all the voices,
he sounds like you.
Yeah, right.
A Southern creature.
God. But he's got this like almost like religious preacher like kind of voice. Just those who have not been torn have no value in themselves. He's like a religious zealot almost. They have no place in this world. They are asleep. It's like, holy shit. Like, and he does kind of have a little bit of a Southern draw, like a little bit of a Southern affinity to his voice that I do like. And I think is really interesting because there are some voices that I do get, like Barry and Dennis do sound a little bit alike. I do get that. There are a couple of things that do sound alike, but this voice is so
distinct.
Yes, so distinct and so fucking different. And I love it. But this is where she's pumping those shells into him. And I mean, it obviously does have some kind of effect on him. He's not totally invulnerable to it. I could see it like, I mean, because she pumps him like fucking, I mean, both barrels, I mean, are literally one barrel right after the other one, point blank from 5-7 feet away.
You're dead.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I mean, it fucking floors him. I mean, he's. I mean, if you actually had David Dunn from Unbreakable there, this would be the point that they would just start fucking whooping that ass because he kind of has to like meditate out of it. Like he takes a minute and he kind of like he kind of cools himself off and then comes up to the bars. And this is another one of the most iconic shots. And it really.
His face? Oh, you can't even tell that it's like James McAvoy. You can't tell that it's James McAvoy like bending the steel. It's crazy.
Right, yeah, but one thing that I do like is that he bends the bars, but it's not just like, oh my god, it's insanely like he just rips them apart. Like he's got to fucking work to get him to move just a little bit.
Yeah,
and then the eyes being all fucking black. I was like, holy shit, man! Like that's
the
awesome.
Blood in the teeth. Yeah.
Yes, dude, that's so great. But this is where, we kind of see that she's been, self-harming herself. She's been cutting herself. And this is why, there's just been so many layers. And, like, did you catch the things on her wrist?
No, I missed that.
I can't tell if it's just like some kind of decorative thing, but there's 2 white bands on both of her wrists. And I'm like, is that like from a suicide attempt? I'm not 100% sure. They're very small, so like I don't really know if that's it.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that.
I'm just looking at it now, and I mean I could be wrong, but I don't know.
But the base leaves are alone. Like his whole thing is, the broken are more evolved. So you're basically like me.
Right, yeah, we're no different from the rest. Yeah, I like that whole thing, which is just great. And he just kind of leaves her alone, this is where the M. Night Shyamalan twist pays off because we have a twist. Somewhat, we're like we've just been as the movie goes on. She slowly loses more and more of her, of her articles of clothing, of the several that she has, and it's a great reveal. But it also ends up being the thing that, again, he almost kind of like respects it. she doesn't understand what this guy is and like obviously like what's going through his head, but there is a mutual respect that he has of like you understand what I've gone through, at least you understand what the road was like that took me to here, and it's like, you know, philosophically, like I'm not going to harm you because you know you just know exactly what I've gone through, and I think that's great. I do think that's really cool.
Definitely an aspect of the movie I liked a lot better this time around.
Yeah, it's kind of like a admiration almost. It's like literally like he's like admiring her battle scars in a way of what she's gone through, which I thought was just
it's like a soldier acknowledging another soldier's kind of like road and like victories and defeats and things like that. It's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where we get the worker coming down and finding her, you know, in the cage, and our final reveal that this has actually been in the Philadelphia Zoo the entire time, which is, I mean, that blew me away. I actually, what I really thought that it was going to be was that this was going to be the stadium that David Dunn worked at in Unbreakable. And I thought for sure because of the radio, and when she opens up Crumb's locker, there's actually like a green, like smock in there, and I was like, dude, is it going to be the same thing as like Unbreakable, which would be fucking cool, you know? But I don't know how well that would have worked.
Did you know? So you knew that they were connected before you started watching the movie?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I had it kind of ruined for me, which I didn't. You know, it was M. Night Shyamalan. Somebody told me it's about a guy with different power, you know, with almost like with powers. And it's like, and I think I even said, well, that kind of reminds me of Unbreakable. And they just went, well, it's kind of like in the last 2 minutes you find out that this is the same universe.
Yeah. See, for me, it was. I found out afterwards. Because I didn't see it. Didn't even think, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, who would? It's been 15 years. It's kind of I love Unbreakable, but it is kind of a forgettable movie. You know, it's not anything that I would have thought would have garnered a sequel, yet alone a trilogy. But I mean, here we are. You know, I gotta say, now I'm like really into like the Split kind of Unbreakable universe, just to see. Because you have two physical foes, you know, you've got, you know, somebody that can actually match David Dunn physically, but at the same time, there's Mr. Glass who can't, but he's just like a mastermind.
Smart, yeah.
So I'm really curious to see that, but I love these shots as they're going through, Kevin's apartment. We see all the toothbrushes. I was like, holy shit, that's such an awesome detail. That's so good. And seeing all the different clothes and then being kind of like sectioned off, I thought that was just fucking great. But yeah, and I love this too, with the officer telling Casey that her uncle's here and that she can go home, and she just gives her that look, and there's just this kind of understood silence between the two of them. The officer's like, something's wrong here. Like, why don't you want to go home? And I think that's great. The officer just picks up on it right away. And I think it was great. I think that it's great that it was a female officer. I think that's very important because I mean, if it were a male officer, I think it kind of wouldn't have had the same impact. And I do think that's a great little detail that I kind of missed over the first time. I don't know why I think that's so cool, but it just makes so much more sense to me than it being like a male kind of officer. But yeah, this is where we kind of we're really just wrapping up and winding down, where we've got our final scene with
the Beast.
Oh God. Yeah, with the Beast. I keep wanting to call him Kevin, but it's not even really Kevin at this point. And I love the mirror play. It's so good. You know, we're just cutting in between those mirrors. You know, Hedwig, this is so cool. You know, and Patricia, you know, talking about what they're capable of. People are going to believe that we exist now, which is just such a good line. You know, and I love Dennis. You know, they're going to have to. Like, that's so good. And basically Hedwig asks, you know, what is it that we're going to do now? And Patricia says, we trust in him. You know, that's basically it. Like, you know, like he's just our Lord and Savior. I was like, that's really cool. It's weirdly like the Trinity, like the three of them, like equaling up to this one, you know, big thing. It's like, that's actually kind of cool. And of course, you know, this is where we get, not even like our post-credit scene, but we get the scene of them already talking about the AKA the Horde, talking about Kevin Wendell Crumb. But But I do think it is really funny when they're like having to do with his multiple personalities. He's being called the Horde. I'm like, no television show would ever fucking say that. Like,
no way. It's very comic booky. I do like the Unbreakable music coming in.
Yes, I'm glad you caught that, dude. I had to IMDb that. I didn't.
You know me, man. If it's a musical motif, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. But I love, of course, our last shot or reveal of, the woman, oh, yeah, they had some other guy they put away 15 years ago. He had a funny name. What was it? Mr. Glass. And they look over, and I loved it. When I actually physically saw it, like,
it was good.
Yeah, I had actually kind of forgotten about it a little bit. When I saw it, I was like, oh, shit. Like, I just think it's shot exceedingly well. Like, having just watched Unbreakable probably in the last, I want to say in the last year, I remember it very well. And I really, really like the way that Bruce Willis portrays David Dunn. And I
only saw it about a month ago again, after that trailer came out.
It felt seamless. Like, I really felt like this was exactly where David Dunn would have been 15 years after the events of Unbreakable. And I was like, dude, I just feel like I just slipped right into Unbreakable 2. Like, I don't know what it was about, even just that little bit of, because, Bruce Willis, great actor, but he kind of plays the same guy in a lot of roles.
And sometimes does not give a shit.
Right, yeah. But I think that this is something that was, like, David Dunn is very quiet. He's a very reserved person, and I love that, and that came across so well just in this one scene. I mean, literally with one line, like, I could just tell, because he wasn't, he tells the woman, that it's Mr. Glass, blah blah blah, doesn't make a big deal out of it, doesn't like sit there and go rushing out the door and change into a phone booth or something like that. Like, he just kind of sits there and contemplates the meaning of that, and he kind of understands now, like, well, I guess I'm back on the job, and I love that. I love that's the beat that we end with. But yeah, that's fucking Split.
That's fucking Split, man. Holy shit. All 2 hours, 40 minutes. Jesus Christ. This is a heavy one, but I dug it, man. It was a good chat. It was fun to talk about. It's I didn't well, do you want to get into final thoughts or?
Yeah, sure. We can wrap up a little bit of trivia and some final thoughts and stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, do you want to hit us with some trivia first, and we'll
Yeah, fuck it. Go right ahead. Do you have anything you want, or you want me to go?
Oh, I've got jack shit.
Okay, cool. Just make sure. Joaquin Phoenix almost played the lead role in this movie,
Whoa.
But they couldn't figure out something with his contract, which James McAvoy knocked it out of the park. But knocked it out of the park, not the part. But I do want to see. Yeah, I would like to see at least an audition tape.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been fucking absolutely cool. But this is also something. James McAvoy broke his knuckle while filming this. He continued to perform the role for 3 days before letting on that he was injured and finally sought attention at a local urgent care. As a result, he was forced to work with an injury on the set of Atomic Blonde. I was like, wow, so it lasted him a while.
That's why he's got the cast in that movie. Oh, that makes sense. He's got a cast in that movie. So, yeah, man, it was. Yeah.
I still haven't seen Atomic Blonde. I just wasn't really. I was like, meh, okay.
Good movie.
The only thing that really got me with that, they were playing "Personal Jesus" by Depeche Mode in the fucking trailer. I was like, I love Depeche Mode. But yeah, I actually there's a couple more trivia things here. I had them written down. That M. Night Shyamalan originally wrote the Kevin character for Unbreakable, but decided to use him in a separate film 15 minutes later. One thing that is really interesting is that, like I said earlier, a young Kevin Wendell Crumb and his abusive mother are speculated widely to be seen briefly in Unbreakable. The scene at the stadium of which David Dunn brushes past The scene at the stadium of which David Dunn brushes past his mother and Kevin and senses child abuse just before he confronts the drug dealer thereafter. In this movie, you learn that Kevin himself is a victim of child abuse, with his mother being the abuser. You also learn that his dad left on a train. Whether he was on the same train that crashes at the beginning of Unbreakable is left ambiguous.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool shit like that. one thing that's really funny is that because this film and Unbreakable were produced by different studios, M. Night Shyamalan had to get permission from Disney for David Dunn's cameo, even though he fucking created the goddamn character. I was like, what the hell, dude?
That's just one of those things, man.
Yeah, if Sony and Marvel can fucking get over it and pull some shit together, I guess anybody can now. Or I guess, sorry, Disney and Marvel, or Disney and Sony, now that fucking Disney owns everything. But yeah, final thoughts. I like this movie a lot. I think it's so funny that literally, like you said, we're just ships in the night passing each other, because I hate the beginning of this movie. I don't think it gets good till about literally, like I said, about 27 minutes in is when I was like, okay, like, because man, I'm just like, it's kind of like I'm always down for the ride of like the supernatural stuff, even if it means, we're gonna bend things just a little bit. In fact, I love those kind of things. I love the kind of things that are like half-ass grounded in reality, and we're gonna bend them like just a little bit. Something like Hancock with Will Smith, that's dog shit. That was a fucking terrible movie, and they don't follow their own rules in the movie, and it's horseshit, and I hate it. But something like Split, where they do kind of follow their own rules, and there is kind of like a lore and a mythos to it, even though it does obviously bend the parameters of reality, if you want to put it that way. I don't mind that, because I'm just used to seeing superheroes and time travel and sci-fi stuff, and I can buy it just because it's not nearly as outrageous as some of the other stuff that I've seen before. I think that the performances, thank God for the performances out of McAvoy and Casey, just because everything else, Fletcher's okay, but the two other girls I could have just totally done without. I wish they would have cast somebody maybe a little bit more prominent, because they are featured pretty heavily, especially in the first half of the movie, and they're not bad, but the dialogue is so clunky at the beginning of it for me, and just the way that they talk, it's just extremely dramatic, even with giving it to the fact that they are in like a very high stress situation, and Casey's kind of going through her own thing right now. I do give it kind of like that grace. I do grade it with a curve like that, but at the same time, like, it's just very clunky, and it's kind of hard to work out some of it, and I think it gains momentum and gets better later on. But what about you? What are your closing thoughts?
Before I get to my thoughts, I just wanted to point out, I did post like a little thing on Facebook and Instagram, just sending out signals to the audience. What do you guys think about this movie? Things like that. Only one person commented, because I was kind of lazy. I only posted it yesterday. So thanks to Alan Michael Pules. He says, Shyamalan's recent track record put me off seeing it, but now since I know the big secret, it's on my list. Also, Alan, wanted to send you a big congratulations your way, man.
Yeah,
he just announced today that he's having a little baby Supergirl.
Woo! So
super congratulations, man. That's fucking fantastic. Really happy for you guys. In terms of this movie, that's a lot. See that fucking smooth ass segue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, it's a good movie. I think the first time I watched it, I was pretty disappointed, just because I was expecting something else. I was expecting it to be a bit more grounded, a bit more realistic. Wasn't expecting it to be a part of a superhero / fantasy trilogy. That being said, man, the performances in this movie are fantastic. Like you said, mainly from McAvoy, especially from McAvoy, rather, and Anya Taylor-Joy. The only problems that I really had with the movie were definitely down to what I was talking about basically for the last 3 hours. I couldn't buy that the mental could affect the physical body. It's just not something that I could hurdle that I could jump over. But I'm a big fan of like connectivity and universes and things like that. So that after credit scene, especially seeing it this time around, got me hard and boned up. So I'm really excited for Glass, especially because that trailer is one of the best trailers I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
Glass is out January 18, 2019. Really, really keen for that. Split was really good. As far as where it kind of like stacks up in Shyamalan's sort of resume, like I said, it falls somewhere in the middle, but probably a bit on the higher side of the middle. If I had to score this out of 10, probably a 7.
Same here. I was thinking that exactly. Yeah, probably 7. Yeah, maybe a 6.5. You know, it's got some okay moments for me, but a solid C+ or B. You know.
Also, they're calling this trilogy the East Rail 177 trilogy.
Wow, that's a fucking mouthful. I remember seeing that somewhere, being like, "You mean it's the Unbreakable trilogy? Why just fucking call it the Unbreakable trilogy? That's so much easier."
I don't know who came up with that. I've got a source here, but I don't. You know what? I don't even give a shit. I'm not even going to call it that. Yeah. Colin, tie us off.
Guys, if you want to get a hold of us, you can always shoot us an email at midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. There's also our Facebook page with the group connected to it, the After Party. That's all one word, the After Party. Everybody's invited. You can come, talk to us, shoot the shit on there, talk about movies, post our funny memes, whatever you guys want to talk about. You can also always find us on Instagram as well, which I think I prefer our Instagram, which I've said multiple times before. I do really enjoy using that kind of format. It's a little bit more, I think, catered towards people with creative projects, whatever they be, whether they be film or comic books or art or podcast, whatever it is. And, you always, like I said, you can always just message us just on our personal pages. It's not like we have, I'm sorry, you'll have to contact me through my agent. But you can always hit us up on our personal pages. If there's any suggestions or any kind of feedback that you guys want to give us at all, always be sure to hit us up and rate and review us on iTunes and let us know how we're doing. Now, cue that fucking outro music.